Welcome to part 3 of What If Kami Sends Naruto Back in Time to Fix His Mistakes. Please remember to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always, link to the fanfiction is in the description. 1 month later, Gates of Konoha. The month in Suna had passed in a flash. After 2 weeks with the Cage, Tsunade convinced Naruto to reveal his true identity to Raza, which drew a supremely funny reaction out of the stoic Cage and left Naruto rolling on the ground in laughter. The main reason Tsunade wanted Rias to reveal her true identity was to give Gaara a chance to get to know Naruto. She admitted that it wouldn't be the same since Naruto wasn't truly a kid, but it would be better than nothing. Flashback, 2 weeks ago, Cage office. Rias and Tsunade had requested a private meeting with Raza, and he quickly shifted his schedule around to accommodate them. His guests of honor waited less than 10 minutes to be seen, and he quickly shooed his dust guards out of the room. Rias flipped through her privacy barrier and placed her hand on the Cage's door. Before she spoke, she placed a copy of the privacy tag on the Cage's desk. As an offering of friendship, I will install this seal on your desk free of charge with only one simple request. Rias said professionally. Raza picked up the tag and inspected it, knowing that it was a privacy seal of some kind. Is this the same seal you just used? Rias nodded. Very well, what is your request? If it is within my power, I will grant it. It is simple, Lord Raza, you will not reveal what you see and hear in this room to anybody. After you hear me out, you will have the choice of signing an Uzumaki blood contract or having the memories of this meeting sealed away. Mama convinced me to trust you, and I am putting myself at significant risk to do so. Raza hesitated before he asked his question. What would the blood contract entail? If you betray the terms of the contract, specifically you tell anyone about this meeting without my consent, then your chakra will be sealed. I cannot activate it in any way, its only possible activation would be your violation of the terms of contract. You are free to use the knowledge in the best interests of Suna, but you must never tell anyone of what you learn without my prior consent. Rias explained calmly. A hesitant nod prompted Rias to say one more thing. No matter what, please do not freak out. With those last words, Naruto undid the Rias transformation and reverted to the tiny, blonde 5-year-old that he was. Raza's face showed a massive amount of shock, and he was gaping like a fish and pointing before his eyes rolled into the back of his head, and he slumped down in his chair before rolling off it and collapsing on the floor. Tsunade walked over to him with an amused smile on her face before she used a medical jutsu to wake the Cage up. Once he returned to consciousness, he gaped and began pointing at Naruto again. Naruto was rolling on the ground laughing his tiny ass off, and Tsunade was chuckling. The Cage remained in a stunned pose with finger pointed and mouth gaping for nearly 5 minutes before his professionalism returned and he sat back down in his seat. He cleared his throat and fixed Tsunade with a glare. Please explain, were the 2 simple words he used to convey his frustration. Well, Lord Cage, it is a long story. Do you have an hour or so free? Naruto asked. Raza nodded, and the cover story Naruto initially used with Tsunade and the 3rd Hokage was told to Raza. Naruto explained away his maturity by saying that his father's seal imparted most of his knowledge and seals into the boy. He told Raza about being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, which is why he was so set on helping Gaara. Naruto did share the fact the Minato was Tsunade's lost son and his father with Raza. Raza went from scowling at the boy's early treatment and proceeded to gape and stare more and more at Naruto as he explained his life to him. When the story was finally over after 20 minutes, and another 5 minutes for Raza to recompose his thoughts, Raza finally spoke. I understand the need for secrecy and discretion in this matter. No matter what, Naruto Senju Uzumaki, you have my word as the Cage of Sunagakure that your secrets are safe with me. My village is indebted to you, and I am forever grateful to you as Gaara's father. You don't know how close I was to killing my heart for the sake of my village. Raza inclined his head to the tiny blonde. You are most welcome, Raza. I know it is odd coming from a small child, which is why I developed my transformations and their personalities. In return for your secrecy, I will add the condition that the Senju will never raise a hand against Sunagakure unless we are provoked to do so. Naruto responded. Raza shot a look at Tsunade, who simply nodded, before returning his gaze to Naruto. That is a most welcome addition to our agreement. Would you care to be engaged to my daughter while you are at it? Raza wasn't stupid, He knew the power this boy would come to wield in time, especially when Konoha learned of his true lineage. No offense, Papa Raza, but I am 5. I will get to know Temari in the future and be a friend to her, but I would request that both of our parents resist the urge to play matchmaker. If it is meant to be, it will be. Naruto replied formally. Raza felt the switch from friendly to professional and he knew he shouldn't push too hard on this front. Very well, we will let fate play itself out. I will introduce you to the children as Tsunade's grandson and tell them that Rias needed to leave the village. Is that acceptable? Tsunade frowned. Raza, please don't, not yet. In time, when they can be trusted to keep a secret, they can be told. For now, let's just say that his is my ward or something. Raza nodded sadly. Very well, it is a sad thing that such things must be hidden out of fear in this shinobi world. Raza lamented. Naruto pointed a finger to his chest in a childish and boastful manner. Don't you worry, Papa Raza, I will change the world for the better. By the time I am done, nobody will have to hide who they are out of fear of others. Believe it. This comment achieved the desired result and Raza laughed. Also, I think I can help Suna. Would you be willing to pay fair prices for Uzumaki seals, installed by me, of course? Raza snapped back into professional mode. What kind of seals are we talking about? I want to help make the desert more bearable. I will agree to instruct your shinobi on temperature control seals for your buildings. I can offer an intent-based screening seal and a truth seal for your front gate. I can offer scanning seals that can locate underground water reserves, and since you will not be able to reveal this information, I have the Mokuden bloodline, and I will grow fruit trees and assorted plants for your village. Raza's jaw continued to drop further and further, and it hit his desk when he processed the implications of Naruto's bloodline. Why? Why would you do all of this for Suna? Raza was shocked by the faraway look in the boy's eyes. It definitely didn't belong in the eyes of such a young child. Please understand that there are things I am not willing to share with you and that I will never be able to share with you. I am bound by a contract of my own and I cannot reveal such information. For now, please accept that I hold a deep love and gratitude in my heart for Sunagakure and its people. I wish to help them prosper and make their lives better in any small way I can. Tsunade put a reassuring hand on her grandson's shoulder. He isn't lying to you, Raza. He is bound by a more powerful contract than the blood contract that you will need to sign. He is also being truthful when he speaks of his love for Suna. Raza picked his jaw up off the desk and reattached it before speaking again. Very well, I would like all of the above offered seals. I will pay a premium price to the Senju family for each one. Tsunade nodded. As the Senju clan head, I will accept 3s ranked missions pay for the instruction on the temperature seals and the rights to use them freely. Each seal on your front gate will be the cost of 2s ranked missions. The water scanning seals will start at A, B, rank pay and bonuses will be added based on results. The orchards will each cost an A ranked missions pay per square acre. Do you find these terms acceptable? Raza did some calculations in his head and knew that Suna didn't have the money ready up front for such costs. He sighed sadly before responding. Suna cannot afford the offered. Sorry for cutting you off, Lord Cage. What if we offered it on an interest-free, 5-year plan? Naruto offered. Raza thought it over and nodded as a smile cracked open his face. That would work. Yay. Thanks, Papa Raza, you won't regret it. I am going to change the shinobi world for the better. Naruto jumped and shot a fist in the air in a childish manner. Raza's smile widened as he looked down on the boy that could possibly become the savior of Suna before he looked at Tsunade. So, you will not be returning directly to Konoha. Could I offer you a place to stay in Suna until the time come for you to leave? Tsunade shook her head in the negative. My apologies, Raza. I do not wish to draw unnecessary attention to my family before we are ready to deal with the ramifications. How about we stop by for a couple weeks twice a year? You can save any sealing jobs you need us to do, and we will make a routine out of it. That will let the kids bond and avoid drawing so much attention to us. That sounds great, Raza replied. The rest of the meeting was Naruto writing out the Uzumaki blood contract with all 3 parties present signing it. Raza introduced Naruto to his children and Naruto had a shadow clone constantly hanging out with the kids as he completed sealing jobs around Suna. He gave Chio a detailed scroll on the temperature control seal along with daily instruction. By the end of the first week, she was able to make her own seal and control the temperature in her home. She would be responsible for training a new generation of sealing apprentices, and Naruto gave her copies of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu levels 1 through 3. He thought it was fair since they paid a hefty sum for the rights to the seal. For his work around Suna, Naruto had a lot of fun running around in the teenage form of Hashirama Senju, which drew incredulous looks from those old enough to remember the legendary shinobi. Naruto started at the front gate and secured Suna. He laughed his ass off when Raza conducted an emergency evacuation drill a week later as an excuse to get everyone out of the village and have them go through the seals. That day was referred to as the Great Sand Massacre by the spy networks of every nation. Naruto was also able to locate one massive reservoir of water buried nearly a mile and a half underneath of Suna, and he said it would be an extensive endeavor, last many years to get that water closer to the surface, but he would help Raza do it. To put it in perspective, it was an underground lake twice the size of Suna. Raza was overjoyed, and when he shared the news with the Suna Council, they immediately began a village-wide engineering effort to gain access to the water. Finally, whispers of the jubilant Senju team that was running around the village and planting orchards of fruit trees throughout Suna spread like a wildfire. After cleaning out the foreign spies, Raza spoke to his people and declared that anybody who speaks of the mystery Senju to an outsider will be considered a traitor of Sunagakure. Most people willingly and readily agreed to those terms because they were so appreciative of the Senju family. In addition to working, Naruto used the 2 weeks to get to know his friends better. The kid Gaara was still quiet and reserved, but he was so much better than the previous version that Naruto couldn't stop happy tears from falling. The tiny redhead would see the crying blonde boy and he offered him his prized teddy bear on many occasions to make him feel better. The two became fast friends, even if Naruto did most of the speaking in the relationship. Naruto found sweet relief in the oddities of Kankuro as a child. Makeup, dolls and even a dollhouse demonstrated to Naruto that the odd boy was always destined to be a puppeteer. He offered words of encouragement along with a healthy dosage of ribbing to his old friend to help him accept his chosen path as a puppeteer. Naruto really bonded with Kankuro while watching cartoons and reading manga though, since it was one childhood passion Naruto never had the chance to engage in, and Kankuro was a true weeb in that sense. Strangely enough, Naruto found it easiest to talk to Temari. The future blonde beauty was every bit as stubborn and driven as Naruto remembered. Naruto, or a clone of his, was dragged out daily to the training grounds to work on Temari's chakra and wind control. It was slow moving, but not every kid had the memories of a previous life to help them along. The distraction training offered was a blessing and sweet relief from hauntings of that past that seemed to plague Naruto less and less as his new life in this world truly began. End of flashback. Tsunade stomped up to the front gates of Konoha with a begrudging look on her face. The only solace she took in this was that their new compound in Wave Country was under construction and she would only need to spend a week in Konoha before heading out. Tsunade handed the ID cards over to Izumo and Katetsu with a massive chip on her shoulder, which scared the crap out of the two gate guards. The two were so scared that they didn't even question seeing Rias Maki walking alongside the legendary slug Sannin. Tsunade keyed Naruto and Shizune into the Senju compound and dropped them off before she stomped her way to the Hokage Tower. She blew past the secretary and nearly threw Hiruzen's doors off of their hinges as she entered the room. The Anbu were smart enough not to react to the enraged Sannin, and they even listened to her order. Tsunade scowled at Hiruzen and the two elders before she growled, "Anbu, get the hell out, now." Hiruzen nodded and four blurs left the room before he activated the privacy barrier Naruto gave him. Cut the shit, Hiruzen. You three have a lot to answer for, and if you want to walk out of this office, you will answer my questions. Tsunade shouted. Homura began to stand, but Tsunade blurred to him with chakra scalpels activated and severed the axillary nerves to both of his legs. Kaharu was about to speak but wisely shut her trap when Tsunade's fierce glare turned on her. Once she was properly cowed, she turned her head to Hiruzen. For the sake of your health, you better tell me the truth and only the truth. Did you know Minato was my son? She hissed in a low and menacing tone. All three geriatric old farts had their eyes widened to the size of sake saucers at the Sannin's words. Finally, Hiruzen was able to respond. No, it couldn't be. What couldn't be, sensei? The venom in the word sensei made Hiruzen Sarutobi, the god of shinobi, visibly flinch. Minato couldn't be, he couldn't be your son. Hiruzen said, sounding mighty unsure of himself. Why couldn't he be? Because that would mean that you three put the last male Senju heir in an orphanage where you allowed his abuse for 4 years before you allowed said orphanage to kick him out on his birthday and left him at the mercy of the mob. Screw you all. Tsunade roared and she slapped Hiruzen with a fierce open hand on his left cheek and sent him flying into the wall. You all stood by while that happened to my grandson. Tsunade roared and the whole Hokage tower was flooded with ki. Pounding could be heard on the door, but the barrier held. WWE, we didn't, WED didn't know, Tsunade. Kaharu stuttered out meekly, truly terrified of the enraged Sannin. The words of the poor elder had the effect of turning Tsunade's wrath on her, and a dangerous growl emitted from the back of Tsunade's throat. You listen to me, and you listen to me well, you are old, has-been shit-stains. I am leaving the village for the next 6 years and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. I have informed Kinji of your offenses via letter and I will be going to the capital personally to negotiate with him. I am taking my grandson, Jinchuriki or no, and you will leave me and my family the fuck alone until we see fit to grace Konoha with our presence again. If that old, evil cripple so much as sends a single one of his root fucks my way, I will return to this village and wreak havoc on it until I find him and pound him into dust. For the life of me, the boy wouldn't listen to me and still insists on becoming a Konoha shinobi to honor his parents. You will keep my sons and grandsons' identities a secret until I see fit to grace the world with such knowledge. Finally, Hiruzen, do not send Jiraiya my way until I call for him. I will confirm with blood tests, but Jiraiya is Minato's true father. You are not to tell that perverted toad about his, my sons are my grandson's heritage, that honor is mine. Now, I will be in the village for 1 week. I will not be called to any council meetings, I will not be bothered by your Anbu or civilian police, and I will not tolerate any direct or indirect actions against my family. Now, open the Hokage vault and get my grandfather's scroll. I, as the Senju clan head, no longer see fit to trust Konoha with it. Tsunade was shouting and flaring her ki throughout the whole monologue. Hiruzen had never been this terrified of his student, who was clearly imbued with the divine wrath of a scorned mother. Homura and Kaharu were barely holding onto the consciousness, and they were struggling to breathe under the true weight of a legendary Sannin's anger. If she wasn't so enraged, she would have savored the looks on the wrinkled geriatrics' faces. Tsunade, please be reasonable. Hiruzen begged. Tsunade cocked an eyebrow. Reasonable. Go fuck yourself, sensei. Was Naruto's treatment reasonable? I could give a fuck less about your excuses because the answer is no. You have my boy to thank for this enhanced treaty with Suna, by the way, so why don't you take turns shoving it up your wrinkled asses? She threw the treaty scroll as Hiruzen, and the scroll slammed into Hiruzen's nose and broke it. Hiruzen wiped the blood from his nose and tried to fix a firm gaze on Tsunade. Where will you go? None of your fucking business. Anyone that follows me or attempts to find me will be killed without mercy, and I will ship their bodies back to you. If you think I am mad, imagine what Kinji will do when he finds out that. Not only was Minato a Senju, but you lied to him about his son, who happens to be the sole heir and daimyo of Whirlpool Country. I will make you suffer, Hiruzen Sarutobi, until I see fit to end your suffering. You fucked up and I am the agent of the Reaper now. Now get me my grandfather's scroll and the forbidden scroll of seals that my son made. I almost forgot about that one. You can't. That holds village secrets and would endanger village security. Kaharu shouted, fed up with the enraged Sannin. We could never prioritize the needs of one boy over the village, regardless of his lineage. That was the wrong thing to say, and the elder knew it as soon as the words exited his mouth. Tsunade turned to him slowly with the visage of the Shinigami hovering behind her. Before Hiruzen could react, Tsunade broke both of Kaharu's legs and a green scalpel slid across his male genitalia. It would take Kaharu months to realize that he was now completely impotent. Tsunade ignored the man's screams and turned to Hiruzen. I won't ask again, Hiruzen. Get me the scrolls or I return here with the fire daimyo and a samurai guard. The complete loathing in her tone cut off any retort the old monkey had. Very well. I will expect approval for this from the fire daimyo in the next month. Neither you nor I can authorize such actions alone. Kami, you are pathetic, sensei. You have lost your touch and your will of fire. At least my grandson has it, try not to fuck this pathetic village up too badly and he may be able to fix it in time. Tsunade shot back. Hiruzen went into the Hokage vault and brought out 2 large scrolls for Tsunade, who sealed this into a seal on her wrist. One last thing, every dime you old fuckers stole from the Uzumaki and Namikaze accounts will be returned, with interest, before we return to this village. Now, don't ask or attempt to see me again until such a time that I deem it acceptable. With that, Tsunade Senju, the Slug Sannin and Senju Princess, kicked the Hokage's doors off their hinges. 3 unaware Anbu were caught in their path and would require a trip to the hospital, along with Counselor Kaharu. Hiruzen waved the Anbu into his office and each agent was stunned to see the handprint on their Hokage's cheek. Should we pursue and arrest her, Lord Hokage? Lion asked. Hiruzen sighed and rubbed his eyes. No, Lion, no Anbu will approach Tsunade for the duration of her stay in the village. Make sure that order is disseminated. Also, get Counselor Kaharu to the hospital as well as those Anbu caught in the collateral damage. Hi, Lord Hokage, it will be done. Tsunade scoffed as rumors spread about her throughout the village. Nobody knew why she was so mad at the Hokage or why she never spoke to anyone in the streets. The only public sighting of the Senju clan was them eating at Ichiraku Ramen with a familiar red-headed teen. During her stay, Tsunade ran blood tests confirming the supposed lineage of Minato, Naruto and even Jiraiya. She would hold on to that piece of knowledge until the time was right to play it. Time skip, 4 years later, main island of the Land of Waves. 4 years passed in a serene peace as Naruto, Tsunade and Shizune enjoyed their villa on the island about a mile away from Tsunade's house. After seeing Naruto's memories, Tsunade readily agreed to set up in Wave Country and she opened a clinic there. The Senju family brought a prosperity to Wave Country that was unseen since the island country's formation. Tsunade alone was responsible for people coming from around the elemental nations to receive advanced medical treatments. Wave profited off hosting those families throughout their stay on the island and hotels were built to accommodate an increase in visitors and tourists. Shizune worked alongside Tsunade as her apprentice to study the healing arts and hone her skills as a combat medic and future doctor. She enjoyed the stability of their island villa and the high social status the family bore on the island. Their fame and influence easily eclipsed that of the Wave daimyo, Klim, who was nothing special whatsoever. Shizune rescued a tiny baby pig that was wandering through the village one day and named it Tun Tun. Naruto couldn't stop himself from laughing at the iron wills of fate or destiny, he didn't know which one was responsible for the fated pair. A year ago, Shizune began dating one of Kaisa's friends, a studly fisherman named York, who used to work as security for merchant vessels. Naruto still remembers the day that York learned to fear tiny blonde children, and it is one of Naruto's favorite memories. Flashback, May 8, just over a year ago. Shizune was running around the house and fretting about her clothes. Naruto heard the commotion and decided to investigate, which caused Naruto to walk in on a scene that made Naruto break out in fits of laughter. Shizune had her whole wardrobe out of the closet and clothes were hung up all over the walls, laid out on the bed, covering the floor and almost every other space Naruto could see in the room. As Naruto entered the room, Tun Tun squealed in a request for aid from Naruto before the tiny pig jumped into his arms. What's wrong, Tun Tun? Has Big Sis gone crazy? Naruto asked sarcastically. Oink, 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 oink. Tun Tun was nodding her head and speaking faster than usual. Oh really? My sister has a date. Oh, how fun. Naruto exclaimed as his prankster look crept upon his face. No, Ruto, I forbid you from getting involved. Shizune shouted as she shimmied into another outfit. You can't stop me, sis. Not even if you tried. Go with the yellow sundress with white petals. It really suits your eyes. Naruto suggested. Shizune froze and looked frantically around the room for the clothing Naruto recommended. She found it laid out on the floor, shook it out, stripped off whatever she was wearing and tried it on before examining herself in the mirror. She twisted and turned to make sure it looked right before patting her shoulder-length hair down. She turned to Naruto before asking, so, what do you think? Naruto smiled in a brotherly way. I think if he doesn't say you look beautiful in the first 10 seconds then you eat as much as you can and leave him with the bill. Shizune shot a stern gaze at Naruto. Look, lil brother, I like this guy, and this is my first ever date. Don't ruin it for me. Naruto held his hands up in a gesture of innocence. What could lil ol me do? Plus, I am happy for you, sis. I just want to make sure he is worthy of such a fine young woman. Shizune cocked an eyebrow at him. You do know how strange that sounds coming from a 9-year-old, right? Actually, I am a 23-year-old trapped in a child's body, which technically makes you my little sister. Which means I have every right to protect you. Naruto shot back. Grr. Don't ruin this for me, Ruto. Shizune said before she tossed a pair of jeans at him. Okay, geez. Add in a yellow hair clip and that necklace I gave you for your birthday last year and maybe the yellow, low-heel strap-on sandals. I love you. I just remembered I got to go into the village. Naruto set Tun Tun down and dashed out of the house. Shizune sighed as Tun Tun ran into her arms. I know, Tun Tun. He is such a troublesome brother. But I think he was right about the additions to my outfit. Shizune began tossing all of her clothes into the closet before she found the recommended items. After putting them on, she expected herself in the mirror. And a pleased smile flashed onto her face. Then, in a panic, she ran into the bathroom to brush her teeth and apply some perfume. York was 21 years old, 6 feet tall, with tousled brown hair and a fairly handsome man. He had run into Shizune at the clinic where she had healed one of his fishing injuries. After talking about her to Kaisa, his best friend, he worked up the courage to ask the Senju girl out. He was terrified of Tsunade, having heard of her legendary strength, and he was also wary of her little brother. The kid ran around the village and worked like crazy. Everyone sang the kid's praises like he was Kami's gift to Wave. Too bad he didn't realize how right they were. He had put on his best clothes, picked up a bouquet of flowers and he was walking to the Senju villa to pick Shizune up for her date. He was whistling a tune to himself as he jaunted down the road and tried to work up his confidence as he approached the Senju estate. The road was lined with sakura trees that really made it beautiful this time and year and they contributed to his high spirits. All of a sudden, York's ankle was surrounded by a thin tree branch, and he was hoisted into the air and came to rest with his head at a blonde boy's eye level. The boy wore a nonchalant look on his face while he locked eyes with York as he dangled from the tree branch. The experienced seaman paled at the strength and depth of the azure blue eyes and his breath hitched in his throat. Nice ta, Micha, I assume you are York. The boy asked, and York nodded. Cool, first guess and I was right. Well, Mr. York, I am Naruto Senju, brother of Shizune Senju. Do you understand why I have you in such a unique position? No, not really. York answered. Well, you see, Mr. York, I may be an overprotective brother, but that just depends on who you ask. This seal here, Naruto showed the tag to York, is a truth seal. If you lie to me, this little guy will let me know. If you lie to me, do I need to finish that for you? No. York answered, his voice cracked with fright. Naruto put his gigawatt smile on as he patted York on the shoulder. Good. I am happy to hear that, Mr. York. Okay, first question, what are your intentions with my sister Shizune? I think that she is really pretty, and I want to get to know her. York answered in a rush and the seal glowed blue. Naruto smiled, we are off to a good start, Mr. York. Does the Senju name or fortune have anything to do with you asking my sister out? Naruto added some ki and a stern gaze to this question. York nearly pissed himself at the intimidating blonde. No. I just met her at the clinic when she healed me, and I asked her out. Another blue glow and a smile from Naruto. No need to be so scared, Mr. York. Final question, do you agree to wait to sleep with my sister until marriage? York was taken aback by this question. Why does a kid know about sex? Is that really any of your business? So threaten the man's sex life and he grows a backbone. To answer your question, since you have been so forthcoming answering mine, yes, it is my business. My sister is pure of heart and is genuinely excited for your date. If you use her and throw her away like some common whore, then you will figure out the ending of my earlier threat. And I assure you, Mr. York, it will not be pleasant. Having heard this, do you wish to continue courting my sister? The boy's relaxed posture and completely nonchalant attitude was very unsettling to the young man, but he did genuinely want to date Shizune. York fixed his gaze on the young boy's eyes. Yes, I do. I will treat her right, you have my word. Very good, very good. Naruto said as he clapped his hands and dropped York back onto the road. I trust we can keep this meeting between us men, Naruto said while extending a hand. Sure thing, kid. York returned the handshake to Naruto and found that it really hurt. Good, I will start by giving you a tip. Shizune's favorite flower is the yellow sun lily. Roses are a little too presumptuous for a first date. Naruto put his hands on the ground and closed his eyes in concentration. York was speechless and he watched a bundle of yellow sun lilies grow out of the ground. Naruto used a wind blade to make an even cut on the stems before he handed the new bouquet to York. I think I am going to like you, Mr. York. Please treat my sister well and enjoy your date. York stood in a stunned silence, clutching the bouquet of lilies, as he watched the boy walk away whistling the same jaunty tune he was whistling earlier. Unfucking real. That kid is terrifying, he whispered under his breath. End of flashback. After that first date, Shizune and York became one of the island's most prominent couples, alongside Kaisa and Tsunami. The young couples took up prominent leadership roles in the town and helped to keep Wave moving in the right direction. Tsunami agreed to be the first teacher at the new school that Naruto built with Tsunade's guidance. The island had a healthy population of children that had no place to go to get an education, a problem that the Senju family was more than happy to fix. Tsunade's family were great friends of the Senjus and Naruto would often be contracted by Tsuno for his Mokuden jutsu. The kid could erect the complete frame of a house in under a minute, which was insane. Of course, Naruto made Tsuna, and his family, swear to never reveal this secret to anybody, which they readily agreed to. Naruto thanked the family by erecting apple, orange and pear orchards in their backyard for them. The 3-year-old Inari loved to run in the orchard and play with his big brother, Naruto. It was new memories like this that gradually healed Naruto's soul and overwrote the nightmares of the past. Naruto was walking through the lively town of Uchiha, the main village on the main island of Wave Country, when he spotted a man he hoped to never see again. A fat little midget of a man in a 3-piece suit was walking through the town like he owned the place with 10 men armed with katanas behind him. Kurama worked overtime to suppress the flow of his chakra due to the strong emotions and memories this little midget elicited. Naruto couldn't stop the growl that escaped his throat, and he didn't understand why his world suddenly went black. Naruto woke up inside a house inside of his mindscape. He didn't remember a house being in Kurama's mindscape, and he didn't understand why there were 2 voices just chatting away. Naruto sat up from a bed in his mindscape and the 2 no-so strangers turned their heads and looked at him with googly eyes. What's going on? Naruto asked, extremely weary of the intruders in his mindscape. All of a sudden, the little blonde girl jumped to her feet and yelled, Kurama. He is awake. After thunderous pounding of paws, a dog-sized, 9-tailed fox with a reddish-orange coat walked into the small house. The fox locked eyes with Naruto before he let out a sigh. Kit, sit down and listen, please. Kurama said in a commanding tone, which got an immediate response from Naruto as he sat in a chair across the living room from Kurama. Okay, Kit, this is going to be tough to hear, but I think you already have an idea. Naruto nodded in a way that said get to the point. Okay, well at this point, you have 3 distinct and separate personalities. This is the first time that Yosek has ever taken direct control from you, and I have severed the connection to the outside. You have had enough. Death in your first lifetime. I guess I will start with hello Rias and Hikari, it is nice to formally meet you. Naruto opened with an awkward grace. Now, if they are here, this Yosek personality has taken control. I don't remember ever using that identity. Kurama sighed before he crossed the living room and jumped into Naruto's lap. To be honest, Kit, you haven't really needed it up, till this point. This is the first time he has left the seal. He is your war veteran personality. The part of you that will do the right thing and do what needs to be done no matter what. So, he is slaughtering Gato and his men before they can ruin this country. Naruto asked, his mind focused on the problem. You are taking this rather well, little brother. Rias said while eyeing him with an analytical gaze. Unexplained incidents at night over the past 4 years isn't exactly low-key. I felt your personality first, Rias. After my medical training with Mama, I kinda figured it out. That being said, why did you hide this from me during my previous visits to the Mindscape, Kurama? Kurama fidgeted nervously on Naruto's lap, and he was sad that the petting stopped. I was waiting for your mind to heal, Kit. Kami really fucked up when she put your fractured soul in the body of a child, and the first thing you got when coming back to this world was, yeah, you get it. Naruto resumed his petting and spoke impassively. I thank you for looking out for me, Q, but if you ever hide something like this from me again, I am going to lock you in a tiny room with my best imitations of Might Guy and Rock Lee for a whole month. Everyone in the room froze in horror at the thought of such a punishment. That was beyond cruel and sadistic, to the point the Ibiki Moreno would never do something so devoid of humanity. Kurama was really fidgeting in Naruto's lap and the petting continued. Why you wouldn't do that to me. You wouldn't do that to your soul-bound partner, would you? For one of the first times in his life, Kurama was actually scared. Naruto shrugged, who knows? Test me and find out. He replied nonchalantly in a manner that terrified the occupants of the room. Hikari-chan, please age yourself to match me. Having a feminine perspective would be a good thing, but I won't always need a kid. Feel free to take what information you need from myself or Rias, just don't take anything from Yosek. I would like to preserve your innocence for a while. Rias, please share your memories with me, I wish to know what I have missed from your perspective. Rias shuffled nervously and rubbed her fingers together while avoiding eye contact. Are you sure? I don't think you really want my memories. Naruto smiled and nodded. Yes, I am sure. If we are going to make this work, we need to trust each other. I will let each of you out more often to stretch your legs. Q, if you behave, I will include you in that offer as well. Kurama perked up and strained his neck to look up at Naruto. Are you serious, Kit? I can get out of the seal. Naruto shrugged, I don't see why not. If they can leave the seal, I am sure we can find a way for you to do it. I will have to learn to use your yokai exclusively and allow you to force your consciousness into a shadow clone. With the seal open, it should be entirely possible. Kurama licked Naruto's face in excitement for the first time. He was so excited that he shelved his pride and showed his partner how much he appreciated the thought. After Kurama's excitement faded and was replaced by a stunned shame, the conversation continued. Big brother, I know I am like you, but what do you need me for? Hikari asked with puppy dog eyes. Naruto smiled at the little girl. Well, I believe you. Represent my pure, untainted childlike innocence. You are probably a bit of a knucklehead, am I right? Hikari looked sheepish while Rias laughed. Kami, Naruto, you are taking this a lot better than I expected you to. And you, Rias-chan, are probably my wild side. I am guessing that you love to gamble, and you love the nightlife. Do you pay for hookers, or do you hook up with women at the bars? It was Rias' turn to look sheepish. Rather than answer, Rias walked over to Naruto and put a hand on his head. A flood of memories from the last 5 years hit Naruto, and they were almost exclusively at nighttime. His guess was right on the money, as 90% of the memories were of casinos, bars and bedrooms. Naruto was impressed at the caliber of women that Rias bedded, and he realized he was slightly jealous as he wiped a trickle of blood from his nose. Rias-chan, I have a weird request. Next time you go out for a nightly jaunt, could you wake me up when it gets to the fun part? At Rias' cocked eyebrow, he explained further. I didn't exactly have a lot of experience in my previous life. I want to know how to please my future partner, and I was hoping you could teach me. It was Naruto's turn to look sheepish and break eye contact while Kurama snickered on his lap. Rias was taken aback, she had never considered it from Naruto's perspective. She put a loving smile on her face and wrapped Naruto in a warm hug. Sure thing, Ruto. By the time I am done with you, you will be a pro. Naruto returned the hug and leaned into the embrace. He didn't care that he may or may not be hugging himself, all he knew is at this time it felt like his family grew. At least, that was how Naruto chose to see it. Naruto spent the next few hours chatting with his new family and getting to know the other aspects of himself better. It was a merry occasion, and eventually Hikari came over and joined the cuddle session on Naruto's lap while Rias watched on with a truly loving gaze. Suddenly, Naruto sensed another presence in the house and turned to see a dark-haired teen in red battle armor. When the teen turned to address him, Naruto gasped. "Why do you look like my teenage great-grandpa?" he asked. "Because our great-grandpa was a true warrior that fought courageously. He may have been a bit naive, but I have purged that aspect and I have no qualms about doing what needs to be done," the boy answered in a flat and respectful tone. Naruto placed a sleeping Hikari on the chair with Kurama and the small girl wrapped herself up in his tails. Naruto walked calmly over to boy and extended his hand. "I know this may be awkward, but moving forward we need to work with each other. I am Naruto Senju Uzumaki, and I appreciate you looking out for me." Yosek cast a skeptical glance at Naruto before a small smile graced his face. "Nice to meet you. I am Yosek, and I am your warrior aspect. Don't be scared to call on me for advice. I am everything ninja related that you have ever learned without all of the knucklehead that used to round you out." The two boys shook hands and smiled at one another. "So, I can use you as a sparring partner. If you want to get your ass kicked, sure." Yosek shot back. Naruto laughed heartily. "A good ass kicking never killed nobody. That is how I learn." Naruto's face and tone changed to a serious one. "I need to see the memories of what you did out there and I need to know if there was anything we need to cover up." "Very well." Flashback. Immediately after Naruto blacked out, Yosek came to and scowled as he watched Gato enter a local restaurant. He followed him and his men into the restaurant and watched them torment the waitress. Luckily, there were good men in Wave that stood up to the midget tyrant. A group of men gathered and forced the midget and his posse out of the restaurant. Yosek nodded to them before he exited the restaurant to continue tailing Gato. The little midget was ranting about how he would make the disrespectful scum pay for their offense. Yosek followed Gato out to a massive cargo liner that was anchored away out to sea. He used water walking to follow the boat and remain unseen. He climbed aboard the ship and began scouting it out, and he was enraged to see the room as the bottom of the ship with the sign, "Cum Dumpster," written over the head of the door. It took all of his warrior training not to go completely berserk then and there. In the room were 22 women of ages ranging from 12 to 30 that were chained to the wall and looked like their spirits were broken. Along with the women, there were 12 men that were using and abusing the women. Yosek retained his composure long enough to erect a privacy barrier before he snapped. He could no longer restrain his rage and he slaughtered the men like the pigs they were. The unfortunately gruesome sight caused the women to scream in terror, especially the ones that got an impromptu blood shower, but he was able to calm them down after a couple minutes. "Look, ladies, I apologize for what has happened to you. I am going to end Gato and every man on this boat tonight, but I need you to stay calm and follow my orders. Can you do that for me?" Yosek asked in a quiet and gentle tone. The girls nodded before one of the older women stepped forward. "Thank you for helping us, but we have nowhere to go and if we leave Gato will kill us." Yosek just returned the doubt with a smile. "Ma'am, I promise you. If you trust me, I will make a home for you all in Wave Country. As far as Gato goes, as I said before, he will die tonight, you have my word." The pretty, black-haired woman nodded sadly at that. "Okay, I will trust you. Ladies, once you are out of your restraints, we need to listen to this man. We are in your hands, good sir." The woman shot a genuine smile at Yosek, which filled his warrior's heart with a warm and fuzzy feeling. Yosek created 20 clones that began freeing the women from their restraints and Yosek spoke up above the noise. "First things first, are there any more girls on the ship? Second, what is your name, ma'am?" The lady smiled broadly before responding. "I am Himawari Yuki, and I was taken from Kiri by Gato. There are 2 more girls, a blonde and a brunette, that will be in Gato's private chambers. It is nice to know the Yuki are still alive. I am putting you in charge of this group. I need them to remain silent and follow my clone's lead. I will leave 5 clones with you. I want you to give me a 10-minute head start before you go to the ship's deck and get to the evacuation boats. I am going to kill every man on this ship and then blow it sky high, so be sure to stick to the plan. Am I understood?" Yosek spoke in a stern tone, which earned him nods from the scantily clad women dressed in rags. "All right, just be strong for a little longer and everything will work out." Yosek disappeared after flashing the girls a smile. He left 5 clones that knew what needed to be done and began clearing out the ship floor by floor. He unsealed his mother's sword, Benihime. He didn't feel like changing the name to honor his mother's memory and created 100 shadow clones. They wordlessly set to work clearing out the ship. Yosuke was able to make it to the ship deck before the alarms began sounding. Men flooded out onto the deck of the ship with weapons drawn and ready. A feral grin spread over Yosuke's face and his features darkened. He was drawing out the Kyuubi cloak, but he was keeping it controlled enough to where it just hovered over his skin. In a blur of motion, Yosuke and his clones continued the bloody massacre. 20 minutes after leaving the captured girls on the bottom level, Yosuke made it to Gato's floor. It was at the top of the control tower and there wasn't exactly a lot of room. 10 men stood outside a double door made of oak and each man looked more nervous than the next. When they saw the blood-covered form of Yosuke in his battle armor, 3 of them pissed themselves and 1 fainted at the killing intent flooding the area. All 10 men died to Benihime in less than 5 seconds. Unsurprisingly, the door to Gato's chambers was locked and reinforced. Yosuke took his time taking out his sealing kit and he created 4 directional explosive seals that he attached near the hinges of each door. With a gleeful look on his face, he stepped around a corner before forming a ram hand sign. The explosion shook the control tower and sent the doors flying to Gato's private room. Oh, lucky me. I got one of the wannabe samurai with my little trick. So, Gato, tell me what brings you to Wave. Yosuke strode through the doorway slowly with Benihime held in his right hand, still trickling blood onto the floor. The little midget was in full panic mode as he hid behind one of his naked sex slaves. I was looking to expand my business to Wave Country. He stuttered out in a truly pathetic manner. Waragi, the last remaining guard of the midget wannabe tyrant, stepped forward. You will go no further. You are not worthy to enter Gato-sama's quarters. Without moving his head, Yosuke shifted his gaze to Waragi and remembered him from his previous life. Oh really, you samurai wannabe. What ya gonna do about it? Waragi's confidence took a hit from the cold tone and the density of the killing aura coming from the unknown intruder. Gato decided to play his cards. What is it you want? I have money, women, power, influence. Name your price and I will hire you to be one of my men. Silence, pig. I live a warrior's life. I care not for such petty things. What I want is your head and the end of every vile wretch on this planet that thinks like you. You lie, cheat and steal from others and call their hard work your wealth. You use that wealth to hire petty thugs and call that power. You have nothing that interests me, except your head. Yosuke disappeared in a blur and beheaded Waragi before he could even move. Gato squealed like the pig he was as a bloody Benihime rested on his neck. Yosuke bent down and whispered in his ear. Open that safe, sign over everything you own and turn yourself into the police. If you do that, I may let you live. Gato was a civilian-born man with a lack of empathy and a decent mind for business. He was used to playing dirty and he got so good at it that he became one of the richest men in the world. All of that now meant nothing, and he knew it. Everything is in the safe. I cannot sign the companies to you because I do not carry the deeds on me. If you let me live, I can arrange for their transfer. Gato squealed out. Yosuke sighed. Very well, for now, open the safe and tell me where any other valuables are located on the ship. I am going to give them to the women you uprooted and nearly destroyed. After Gato unlocked the safe and told Naruto where the other valuables were stashed, he created a small army of shadow clones that each took a sealing scroll. He then turned to the 2 ladies that were in a state of shock on the bed and flashed them a kind smile. Ladies, the nightmare is over. If you wish to be free and get off this ship, I recommend you follow my clone here. Last call is coming soon, and you don't want to stick around for the fireworks. The girls nodded their heads, still in a state of shock. The clone helped them get dressed and escorted them through the mess of bodies outside. Yosuke turned to Gato, who was quivering in fear. He gave a piece of paper to Gato, who took it and looked at it curiously. With a pulse of chakra, Gato fell to the floor completely paralyzed. All right, Gato, as I told you. I won't kill you, but if I were you, I would start praying to Kami that the response team is fast enough to save this ship from drowning. Say hello to Yami for me. Yosuke said in a bitterly cold tone. After confirming the safe was completely cleaned out, Yosuke walked down the tower's stairs to the deck. He hopped on one of the 2 boats that the group was using to make an escape and the boat's motors pierced the night air with their rhythmic hum. 2 minutes later, 2 Naruto clones were having a gasoline fight. They had set up a series of explosive tags throughout the ship, including the tower, and now the two knuckleheads destined for a fiery death were making the most of it. Once the two gas cans were empty, the clones locked eyes with one another, performed a super manly high five and then formed the ram hand signs. Yosek watched from the boat as a fiery series of explosions started from the bottom of the large vessel and worked their way up. The ocean liner lit up like a fireball and less than a minute later began its descent into Davy Jones' locker. Yosek reveled in the fact that he managed to protect Wave this time around. He saved Kaisa. That would hopefully bring happiness to the people of Wave, whether they knew it or not. Yosek escorted the girls to the medical clinic for checkups and told them that Tsunade Senju would be here within the hour. Yosek walked up to Himawari and flashed her a smile. "I told you it would be okay. I need to go ask my friend to build you guys a house. Think you could give this note to Tsunade when she arrives here?" He asked in a suave manner, like rescuing beautiful ladies was an everyday occurrence. Himawari winked at Yosek. "Sure thing, Hiro-kun." She then stepped up onto her toes and planted a kiss on Yosuke's lips. This caught the alter ego of our blonde hero off guard. He wasn't made of the positive emotions of his base personality, but this felt good. Elsewhere on the island, Tsunade was resting in her Senju compound, completely content with the life she had with her grandson and adopted daughter. She was more than happy to adopt Dan's little sister, and Shizune became one of the two blessings of her life. Then, Kami literally blessed her with Naruto and gave the two of them a second chance to be a family. Of course, the blonde was an anomaly, and it was anything other than the typical family experience, but it was a blessing, nonetheless. After seeing the past, Tsunade had been able to join Naruto's efforts to change the future, and she had to admit that Neighborhood Watch was an amusing public name to his efforts to change the world for the better. She initially had her reservations, but after thinking about the images she saw in Naruto's memories, it was clearly necessary. Naruto had included her on all of the planning, and they were a two-man team that was out to save the world. She was enjoying a nice quiet night on the porch sipping some sake when a massive explosion was heard around the island. She jumped up onto the roof of her house and looked toward the source of a noise to see a massive fireball and mushroom cloud illuminating the night sky. She sighed knowing that her blonde, baka, Japanese for idiot, lovingly so in this case, was involved. She decided to enjoy the rest of her sake before she was eventually dragged in to clean up her grandson's mess. Sure enough, an hour later, a person showed up and entered the compound, but it was not what she was expecting to see. She froze, because standing in front of her was a nearly identical teenage version of her grandfather. The red-plated armor was slightly different, and the teenager lacked her grandfather's warm, intoxicating personality, but the resemblances were uncanny. As her rational mind rebooted, she knew this had to be Naruto, since he was able to bypass the compound's security seals. "Good evening, Mama. I know there is a lot to explain, but before we get to that, could you please collect Shizune and go to the clinic? I was able to save over 20 women that were being used as Gato's sex slaves and they could use your gentle touch." Tsunade stuttered when she heard this seeming stranger call her mama, which only Naruto was allowed to do. However, once she heard the name Gato, things started to make a bit more sense. Naruto. Is that you? The whispered words finally escaped her throat. She watched a sad look cross the teenage boy's face before he smiled slightly and nodded. "Take care of the women there first and we will talk later. I will need Naruto to construct a shelter for the women that wish to stay here. If nothing else, know that my love for you is real, Mama, it is what I fight for after all." Too many thoughts were going through Tsunade's mind simultaneously. She had worked with Shizune to observe Naruto and help him heal, but if she was right then this was one of his alternate personalities. She couldn't blame his mind for fracturing after all he had been through, but to see an alternate personality in its own unique form was interesting. "Okay, we will talk when I get home. I expect answers, brat." Yosek smiled and nodded at his grandmother before he watched her take off into the house to grab Shizune and some supplies. Yosek walked into Naruto's bedroom after stripping his transformed clothes, which turned into Naruto's white t-shirt with the Senju crest on his chest and beige cargo shorts. Being able to use actual transformations was an amazing ability. Yosek rinsed off in the shower before putting on a basic white tee and some athletic shorts before he laid down in the bed and closed his eyes. End of flashback. Back inside the Mindscape, Naruto reopened his eyes after reviewing the memories. He shook his head to clear his thoughts before he locked eyes with Yosuke. It is not that I don't appreciate you eliminating a threat, but due to your hasty actions you have put our plans at risk and worse, you risked exposing our family. This goes for all of my personalities, which is a weird thing to say. Naruto shook his head again before a fire lit behind his azure eyes as he glanced at Kurama, Rias and Yosuke before he continued. While I accept your existence and the reasons you were formed, if you forcibly take control of my body again and endanger my family, I will find a way to end you. Naruto ended with his gaze firmly fixed on Yosuke, who was the only one so far to endanger his loved ones. Yosuke bowed his head respectfully. My apologies, I believed what I did was right and necessary. Did it ever occur to any of you to talk to me? Treat me with the same level of trust and respect I am showing you now. Family doesn't lie to each other, and we are a very unique family, if nothing else. Naruto asked, sounding disappointed. Naruto, it was never our intention to deceive you, Rias started. Oh really? How long have you guys been here? According to Mama's psychology books, if you were taking control over the core personality then you should be developed enough to have your own thoughts and core characteristics. So why not come clean? Naruto asked. We were scared that our core, you and your soul, were in too fragile of a state to accept us. This was the first time I exerted my own will over your own, and for that I apologize. Yosuke answered and bowed to Naruto. I have been around since you were 4. I work to provide your drive for training and bettering your warrior self, because we all know how necessary that will be in the future. Naruto sighed. Since the beginning and your warrior's honor never made you feel like you were deceiving me or yourself. If this seems so wrong to me, then you must feel it as well. I did, but I also recognized that your soul needed the love you have received from your family to heal before you could reconcile my existence. Yosuke answered in a direct tone. Naruto threw his hands in the air. Ah, fine, whatever, it feels extremely stupid to argue with myself. We will work this out at a later date, for now it seems like I have a house to build. Yosuke, from your perspective, what else needs to be done for the women to get settled in? For now, they will need the basics, which I am sure you have considered. Moving forward, we will need to find them a role in the community and a way to provide for themselves. Rely on Himawari. She seems to be the natural leader of the group and her spirits are still high. Naruto grew a foxy grin. Hee, I think the warrior hath found his maiden. Once we establish some ground rules, I will let you out to say hello and check in on her. That is not a good idea, Naruto. Yosuke there will be charged with mass murder, even if he did the right thing. He should lay low for a while or go by another name and transformation. Rias offered her opinion. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Well, it's a tomorrow problem. See y'all later. Naruto said and shot them a cheeky grin before disappearing from the Mindscape. Kurama smirked at the two awake personalities. I told you the kit could handle it. Something as weird as having 3 alternate personalities is what my partner calls a typical Tuesday. Chapter 8 The Neighborhood Watch. Fugaku Uchiha was sitting in his study inside of his compound going over some paperwork. He kept being distracted by his thoughts as most of his thinking power was diverted to thinking about their unknown adversary, ally. The neighborhood watch had communicated with him multiple times in an attempt to help the Uchiha and warn against their darker plans. The ultimate result, the Uchiha clan was still in a state of unrest, but the coup was no longer a realistic option. It started with Mastermind's not-so-veiled call-out in the council meeting just over 4 years ago. 2 months after that, Elemental Postal Service, a high-class messenger service known for their discretion, delivered 2 scrolls to the Uchiha clan. The first was a letter from Mastermind basically telling Fugaku to get his clan under control or the neighborhood watch would do it for him. It also informed Fugaku that a rogue Uchiha claiming to be Madara was the one that caused the Kyuubi attack, with a side note that the Hokage and elders knew this fact. Fugaku had scoffed at the threat because nobody could threaten the might of the Uchiha, but knowledge was power, and this knowledge could threaten everything the Uchiha had in the village. Luckily, Fugaku noticed that the information had not been shared with the Hokage or anybody else in the village. For the last 4 years, the neighborhood watch had communicated with him alone and gave him the chance to fix his clan. The second scroll contained ideas for getting the Uchiha back in the good graces of the village along with notes for a seals that would be sure to help with his police force, the truth seal, a prisoner seal and an imprisonment barrier. This meant that the anonymous organization knew that the Uchiha were the main providers of seals and police security for Konoha. Despite the urge to rip the letter to shreds, Fugaku forced himself to heed the warning and accept some of the advice. The result of listening to the neighborhood watch was mostly positive for Fugaku and the Uchiha clan as a whole. For 4 years, sporadic, one-way letters would arrive at Fugaku's front door from the same mailing service. The messengers never spoke about their clients and all attempts to look into the neighborhood watch proved futile. He heard that they had helped Suna, a fact that the Konoha Council had taken very personally, and recently that they took out Gato in Wave Country. Other than the public statement the organization made, there has been zero information found by the Uchiha clan or the Council of Konoha. As Fugaku was lost in his thoughts, another messenger appeared with a letter for him. He took it with a brief thank you and waited for the messenger to exit his compound before opening it. His eyebrows continued to rise as he read the letter before suddenly shot to his feet. Fugaku, your efforts over the last 4 years have not been in vain. Thank you for trusting us. As we have continually repeated, we have the best interest of the world, and the Uchiha clan by proxy, in mind. For your efforts, I offer 2 things this time. First, you are invited to sit down with one of our agents in Wave. We offer you this as a sign of trust and we expect you to come with minimal security. We have been told that Makoto and Shisui are trustworthy, so feel free to bring them. Tide's End Restaurant at noon on August 30th. Second, we have taken steps to help the Uchiha reclaim their rightful place in Konoha. We have hamstrung Danzo, your main opposition in the council, and will continue to do so. You will be happy to know that Hiruzen is considering grooming Itachi for the role as his successor. Keep your elders in check and keep doing the right thing. See you soon. Your friendly neighborhood watch. At the same time, in Water Country, Mei Terumi, the commander of the resistance in the Kiri rebellion, was disturbed from her planning by one of her most trusted shinobi. Lady Mei, we have a messenger here from the Elemental Postal Service with a sealed message for you. Ao said in a professional tone. Mei looked up and smiled. Thank you, Ao. Please let them in. She didn't even question how the messengers knew where to find the rebel base. That postal service was incredibly precise, and they never spoke out of turn. The organization compensated their messengers well and every messenger was equipped with anti-interrogation seals that were supremely effective. Plus, nobody wanted to cross them because the leaders of the mailing service had posted warnings of retribution in the form of intelligence that could cripple most nations. After accepting the scroll from the messenger, Mei let the man rest in the rebel base for the night and opened the scroll. What she read blew her mind. To Mei Terumi, I hope your rebellion is going well, we are rooting for you. We are the Neighborhood Watch, and we are working to bring peace to the elemental nations. I know this is our first time reaching out to you, but please give us a chance. As for why we are reaching out to you, we want to give you some information and provide some assistance in your efforts. First, the Mizukage Yaguro, Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, is under the control of a powerful genjutsu placed on him by the same rogue Uchiha that used the Kyuubi to attack Konoha. What you do with this information is up to you, but Yagura's reign of terror cannot continue. Second, do not send Zabuza out to gain funds. We recently neutralized Gato and he will no longer be able to supply Yagura. We have decided to donate some funds to aid in your rebellion that we acquired from Gato. They are sealed below. Enjoy. Finally, after killing Gato and all of his thugs on his ship, we discovered a couple survivors from Kiri. We are helping them stabilize and get set up in the land of waves. If and when you win your just rebellion, feel free to come and speak to them. I will tell you that most of them do not wish to return, but we will not deny you the right to make your pitch. We are rooting for you. Your friendly neighborhood watch. Mei continued holding the letter in a stunned silence. Her jaw was hanging open and she didn't move a single muscle for over 5 minutes. Ao, wanting to make sure she was okay, asked a question that would inevitably backfire on him. Mei, are you okay? It is unlike you to freeze from such a letter. Did a long-lost marriage contract suddenly appear? Ao tried to joke, but it fell flat, and the room's temperature dropped noticeably. Ao, shut up, or I'll kill you. Mei said in a sickly sweet voice while mechanically turning her head around to look at him through slitted eyes. In Lightning Country, high up in the mountains and above the clouds, at the peak of his village, I was in his office doing bicep curls as he looked through his window out onto his village. It has been an interesting couple of years since the Hyuga incident. It wasn't a good memory for him, but he did what was required of him as a leader and resolved it in a manner that did minimal damage to Kumo. I wanted Kumo to be seen as the strongest hidden village, but he did not believe in his father's methods. There was more to strength than bloodlines. As he was finishing a set, his beautiful secretary Mabui entered his office. Lord Raikage, there is a messenger here from the elemental post for you. Her voice was every bit as beautiful to Ai's ears as she was. Very well, Mabui, send them in. He replied while trying to give a soft look to the dark-skinned beauty. After accepting the scroll and taking a seat behind his desk, I began to read, and he didn't know whether to be pleased or enraged. To Ai, the fourth Raikage. Ai, we apologize that our birth onto the world stage could be seen as an action against Kumo. It was not our intention to make an enemy of you, but your father's methods will no longer be tolerated, no matter who attempts to employ them. We have watched you over the 4 years and are pleased to see you are a man of honor, so we are giving you an opportunity to work with us for the betterment of the elemental nations. In an act of good faith, and as a matter of apology, we offer you some seals that we have shared with other trusted parties. In the first seal, you will find instructions for creation and implementation of a truth seal. We believe that the world would be a better place if people were more honest. Second, we share with you a privacy barrier that will also negate any listening or surveillance devices. How and where you use them is up to you. Before we go, we would like you to reconsider the exchange program that Konoha had proposed. It would be a move in the right direction for the new generation to see foreign shinobis as potential friends rather than simple opposition. It is ultimately your decision, but we can assure you that if you take this leap of faith, you won't be disappointed. We look forward to working with you. Your friendly neighborhood watch. In Earth County, Onoki was a short old man with a big, bulbous nose and quite a bit of power. He held the Dust Release bloodline, and he was the only shinobi in the elemental nations that could fly. Unfortunately, he was getting old, and time was taking a toll on his body. He sat at his desk, fuming mad, as he read the letter that was just delivered to him. To Onoki of both scales. Hey there old man, we are the neighborhood watch and we wanted to offer you a cautionary warning. An up-and-coming organization of nuke ninjas has probably approached you. They go by the name of Akatsuki, and they are the ones that persuaded Deidara to join their cause and forsake Iowa. Just thought we would let you in on that little nugget of information. Second, if you still think it would be worth using this organization of powerful shinobi, then you would be in direct opposition against us. While we are working to make the elemental nations a better place, their organization's goal is to capture all 9 Jinchuriki. You do not want to know what would happen if they managed to succeed. Please, keep Han and Roshi close and inform them of this threat. Finally, rather than simply piss you off, we have sealed a gift for you at the bottom of this scroll. We hope you enjoy it. We will reach out to you soon. Your friendly neighborhood watch. Onoki had half a mind to disintegrate the letter and ignore the warning. These cowards wouldn't even face him in person and hid behind the mask of anonymity. However, he wanted to see what gift they had for him, so he pulsed some chakra into the storage seal. A padded belt puffed out of the scroll and fell onto his desk with a note attached. This belt will help with your back pain. Put it on and channel some chakra into the seal. Onoki didn't care if it were a trap, he would do anything to be rid of his damnable back pain. He wrapped the padded belt over his Tsuchikage uniform and channeled chakra into the belt. He felt an icy hot sensation spread through his lower back and a sigh of contentment escaped his lips. Okay, youngsters, I will heed your warning for now. He whispered before calling to his golem guards. Convene the council, I have information concerning Deidara. Annoying the waves of life. Hiruzen was sitting at his desk, and he worked alongside his clones to combat his greatest enemy. Somebody must have informed the council that he could handle more paperwork because even with clones the thrice damned sheets of paper never stopped piling up. Suddenly, a familiar presence appeared at his window and Jiraiya stepped through. Jiraiya looked the same as he always did guys, so if you don't know, look it up. Sup, sensei? Jiraiya asked casually as he reclined in the windowsill. Hiruzen spared a momentary glance from his paperwork to address Jiraiya. Any news, Jiraiya? Jiraiya smiled brightly. Oh, I don't know. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? Hiruzen sighed and laid back into his chair and removed his pipe from a drawer in his desk. He lit it and took a deep puff before offering his response. Let's start with the good news this time. Jiraiya smiled. Well, it appears we have earned a small amount of Naruto's trust. Tsunade has invited you and I to his birthday party. She is planning a surprise party for him in Suna, and we are invited with strict instructions not to bring anyone else. Why Suna, Jiraiya? Hiruzen asked, sounding dejected. Why has Naruto and Tsunade done so much for a village that is not even theirs? Why would a senju host a birthday party in Suna? Jiraiya frowned at that before a firm look fixed itself on his face. Because you fucked up, sensei. I wasn't here, but it seems like you fucked up big time. As for me, well, I chalk it up to a punishment for my sin of negligence. Hiruzen slammed his hands on his desk. What was I supposed to do, Jiraiya? Jiraiya scowled at that. You told me you would take care of him if I maintained my network. Do you call letting him be abused by the civilians, orphanage and shinobi of this village taking care of someone? I have accepted my role, but it seems like you are still stuck in denial. Hiruzen sighed and rubbed his eyes, looking truly drained. Can you blame me for being upset? They shower love on Suna and have helped them out greatly while they sick the fire daimyo on me and the council. Jiraiya stood from his spot in the window and fixed a fierce glare on his Hokage. One simple question, can you blame them? So, it is all my fault. Look, sensei, you have two options. Keep wallowing in your pity party alone or accept the facts and move on. The fire daimyo has inadvertently helped you regain control of the council, even if that comes with a leash attached. Hiruzen scoffed. A leash you say? I call it Tsunade. Yeah, well you rightly pissed her off. So, do you want to attend or no? Hiruzen sighed again and ran his hands down his face. I don't know, Jiraiya. Why don't you tell me what the bad news is, and I will see if I feel like going. Well, the neighborhood watch has basically made their move and spoken to most of the village leaders, as far as I can tell. Not only that, but they gave out seals to Kumo and Suna. Suna also has the Senju family's favor. I have not been able to get a true spy into Suna since they erected their new seals. I never knew Tsunade to be a seal's mistress though. It's not Tsunade, Jiraiya. It is Naruto. Hiruzen replied wearily. Care to run that by me again, sensei? Jiraiya asked with a cocked eyebrow. When Naruto was young, a hidden function of his seal activated, and he met Minato's chakra imprint. Evidently, said imprint imparted him with knowledge. He gave me an enhanced privacy barrier when he was only 5. It seems like he has given much more to Suna. Jiraiya started laughing uproariously. Oh, Kami, sensei. Now it is starting to sink in just how much you fucked up. Ha ha ha. Well, he isn't giving it to Suna for free. They are paying him quite well. Hiruzen hardened his eyes at that. So, they are paying him for the seals. Yup. From what I know, the Senju family has offered sealing services to Suna and Wave almost exclusively. From what I was able to extract, Naruto or Tsunade also helped Suna develop a sealing department. In addition, the Senjus are selling seals to improve the quality of life to the public. Any idea what kind of quality of life seals? Hiruzen asked, completely overwhelmed by the information. Jiraiya giggled. Well, they are working with merchants to sell sealed bras, temperature-controlled outfits, and rumor has it they are getting into weapons as well. They have amassed quite a fortune, on top of their clan's inheritance. How are they doing all of that? That would require many seal adepts or journeymen to accomplish all of that. Hiruzen asked incredulously. Jiraiya shrugged in response. I don't know, sensei. What I do know is that you need to let go of your baseless grudges and get back in their good graces. Not only is it in Konoha's best interest, but it will be disastrous if you don't. Very well, Jiraiya. Leave me. If I am to take a week-long vacation, I will need to finish this blasted paperwork. Land of Waves, August 30th. Naruto was preparing himself for the meeting with Fugaku by a meditation session in his garden. His tiny body still couldn't handle absorbing nature chakra, but he enjoyed playing with it. He would let some flow through his coils before ejecting it back out. It felt like a delicate dance with a fearsome opponent because the power of Mother Nature always threatened to overtake and overwhelm. Naruto did notice that the natural energy in its raw form felt different than the toad's sage arts, which intrigued him greatly. Tsunade was sipping on a cup of coffee as she watched the incredible child in front of her. Sure, he wasn't really a 9-year-old, but her mind often forgets that fact when she watches him train. One thing is for sure, he is her grandson, and she would do anything for him. She scoffed internally at that because she joined his efforts to change the world. It was a creative way to affect the world without revealing that he had went back in time. As she watched, she remembered the conversation she had with him the day after his raid on Gato's ship, which created a shitstorm neither of them was planning on. Flashback, evening after Gato's death. Tsunade just woke up from her nap after a very long morning at the clinic. She appreciated that her son, or one of his personalities, went out of his way to save those women and give them hope. It was the sign of a good man. It was a heartbreaking morning as she worked with Shizune to combat a multitude of STDs and other chronic diseases as well as many minor injuries. The women were finally realizing that their nightmares were over, and it was an emotionally draining experience. After splashing some water on her face, she realized that she could smell something delicious cooking. She walked downstairs to see Naruto had grilled some steaks, potatoes and prepared some asparagus, which he had laid out for her along with a glass of sake. The young blonde boy smiled at her as she made her way into the kitchen and wrapped him in a hug. The two remained silent and enjoyed the moment and meal before their conversation happened. After 10 minutes, the meal was done and only sake was left. Tsunade sipped her sake and sighed in contentment as she processed that a child was her drinking buddy. Naruto set down his saucer and began explaining exactly what happened. It took Tsunade a minute or two to accept the reality that her son could interact with his alter egos, which was not standard for multi-personality disorder, or MPD for short. She sorted out her thoughts before responding. Okay, well, all things considered, you handled that fairly well. Am I to understand that they can hear us? No. Tsunade asked. To the best of my understanding, they are like Kurama. They remain alert in the Mindscape, and they have daily routines that they do in the Mindscape. If they wish to share my senses, I believe they have the ability to. However, they cannot speak to me through the mental link the same way Kurama does. Naruto replied matter-of-factly. Tsunade rested her chin on her knuckles. Can they take over at any point? Naruto shrugged. I don't know. Rias only ever takes over when I use her personality as in a shadow clone or at night when she is bored. Ah, Rias, the reason you sometimes reek of tobacco and women's perfume. Tsunade shot a wry smile at him. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Haha, yeah, and she evidently likes sleeping with women. Tsunade spit out her sip of sake at that one. And you can share her memories of that. Naruto nodded. I asked Rias and Yosek to share their memories, since I thought that I would need to be aware of what they have done. Tsunade shook her head in disappointment. So much for your innocence. MPD with shadow clones that can undergo true transformations is terrifying, Naruto. It scares me because if they take over and change your form, I would never be able to tell the difference. I know, Mama. It scares me too, but they seem to respect me as the core personality. We know that they originated out of my subconscious need to divide up the stress that was overwhelming me. I think they want to help me, and they agreed to not forcibly take over like that again. Tsunade sighed deeply. Well, I don't see much of a choice except to trust them. I am choosing to see them as an extension of our family. I want to create a way for them to inhabit clones and let them have a life of their own. If I can do that, then they will be less likely to take over my actual body. Tsunade chewed on that thought for a little bit. That will have to do for now. End of flashback. As Tsunade broke out of that reflection, it brought her to thoughts of today's task. Fugaku Uchiha was a proud bastard and Tsunade didn't care for him very much. Makoto was one of her students along with Kushina and she loved that woman. She wanted to avoid the Uchiha massacre, and she formed a plan with Naruto to change that part of the past. If they got Fugaku on their side, then the next step would be getting rid of Danzo. The thought of the old warhawk was enough to enrage her, but she already had plans in motion to deal with the cripple. Watching Naruto dance with nature the way he did was extremely relaxing to Tsunade as well. The garden glowed with life and power whenever he did it and it was a treat to see. The whole Senju compound felt at peace whenever he meditated, and it helped relieve the anxiety of taking on the whole world to save it from itself. She was so lost in her thoughts as she sipped on her morning coffee that she missed when Naruto wrapped her in a hug from behind. The tiny, boyish form was so cute when he wrapped himself around her waist. "Good morning, Mama. Sleep well." The childish voice came from behind her. "Sure did, Ruto. How about you? You ready for this?" Tsunade asked. Naruto scoffed, "Fugaku can't do anything to me. Even if he uses those monkey marbles, Q will help me out. Plus, we are helping him, whether he realizes it or not." Tsunade hummed at that. "What are you going to talk to him about today?" Naruto smiled mischievously. "Well, Yosek, or his new, less recognizable transformation, is going to help him save his own clan and warn him about the rogue Uchiha. I will give him a small gift to stoke his pride and keep him on our side. You okay with recommending Itachi for next Hokage?" "Absolutely, bud. If he can save me from all that paperwork, then good riddance. The only reason I took the title last time around was because you begged me to. Knowing that I accomplished that dream once is good enough for me." Tsunade responded before asking, "What gift?" "Well, you know how ninjas like sharp, pointy things. Well, I was going to give him a prototype sword. One of my experiments that we covered from the Uzumaki vaults. The seals weren't applied during the forging, but I engraved them on a chakra metal weapon, so they should still be effective." Naruto provided the answer nonchalantly. Yes, fellow readers or listeners, Naruto and Tsunade went to Uzushio and they were able to recover the clan scrolls. If you couldn't tell from my writing, I don't feel like making training montages or doing anything so repetitive. If the training is important to the story, it will be in there. The telling of the Uzushio exploration will come later. That raised alarms for Tsunade. "Are you sure you should give him an Uzumaki sword? I have removed the clan emblems and all of the swords from the armory were of high quality. It is no Benihime, but it will prove effective at stoking his ego." "Fine, but be careful." Tsunade gave in, as she always did to her grandson. 2 hours later, Yosek was waiting in the Tide's End restaurant in a booth that let him keep his eyes on the door. He changed his transformation to look more like Hikuro from a manga that he liked to read called Tenshura. Naruto thought that the Uchiha clan head would respect an older form, especially as a representative of an anonymous organization. Fugaku entered the restaurant with Makoto and Shisui at 11:55 am, which was a good sign. Naruto didn't think he would need to be overly concerned, but he did have clones hanged as customers and Tsunade was on standby. He watched the Uchiha family sit down at a booth in the center of the restaurant. Naruto stood up and walked over to their table. He tapped Fugaku on his shoulder and motioned to the booth at the back of the restaurant. The group migrated back to Naruto's booth, and he set up a privacy and genjutsu barrier before addressing his guests. Yosek smiled disarmingly at the Uchiha trio. "Thank you for making the trip here. We are grateful that you trusted us enough to bring your wife and nephew along as well." Fugaku remained stone-faced as he inspected the stranger. "May I ask you to introduce yourself before we begin?" Yosek smiled at the clan head. "How rude of me. I am Yosek, I am part of Wave's neighborhood watch." Fugaku nodded, not missing the implication that there were more branches of said organization. "Pleasure to finally meet you. I am Fugaku, this is my wife Makoto and my nephew Shisui." Yosek nodded, "Yes, we are aware. Now, would you like to start with information or a gift we prepared for you?" Fugaku looked intrigued, but Makoto spoke up. "Actually, Mr. Yosek, if you wouldn't mind, would you share why you are helping the Uchiha clan and not the rest of Konoha?" Yosek frowned at that. "Didn't our organization stop Kumo's attempt on the Hyuga?" Makoto smiled coyly at him. "Yes, you did. However, that still doesn't explain your intentions or reasons behind them." "Makoto, that is enough." Fugaku began to chastise her before Yosek held up a hand. "It is quite all right, Fugaku. This world is a harsh place and trust does not come naturally. To answer your earlier question, Lady Makoto, I believe you are the reason our leader chose to intervene." All Uchihas raised an eyebrow at that before Makoto spoke. "Could you explain that a little more?" Yosek shrugged casually. "I could, but I am not aware of all the reasons myself. We knew that the path the Uchiha were heading down led to ruin and we didn't wish for that to happen. So, I guess we will start with information. Fugaku, have you been able to temper the elders' agitation?" "For the time being. It is not an easy task, especially now that we are on the edge of the clan district. His stoic reply left Yosuke wanting. Okay, well, I need to warn you of a threat that may attempt to take advantage of the divide. There is a member of an organization called the Akatsuki that wears an orange spiral mask with a black cloak adorned with red clouds. This man calls himself Madara Uchiha, but we are quite certain he is not Madara. The normally stoic clan wore shocked looks on their faces, before Fugaku stuttered out, mad, Madara. Yosuke nodded, yes, but he is an imposter. We are still looking into their organization, but so far this imposter is responsible for the Kyuubi attack and for controlling the 4th Mizukage with the power of his Sharingan. His visual prowess is exceptional, and he is quite a fearsome opponent, one we are not ready to engage at this time. Yosuke sat back in his chair and watched a variety of looks play over their faces. Naruto knew that he would have to give more than he got, which was okay with him because he didn't really need anything at the moment. There was rage, denial, sadness and finally resolve on Fugaku's face before he responded. So, it was definitely an Uchiha that caused the Kyuubi attack. If the villagers ever found out, Fugaku began, but saw Yosuke raised his hand. We do not wish to abuse you with the information. It is a warning for you that anything to do with the masked man will lead you to ruin. Yes, he is mostly responsible for your clan's fall in station, whether the villagers know it or not. I recommend you share this with your elders, but that decision is up to you. Makoto was crying now out of anger, so, it was an Uchiha that took my best friend away. Do you know where he is? Her Sharingan had flared to life out of anger, but she was calmed by a hand on her shoulder from Fugaku. Fugaku turned back to Yosuke and fixed him with a stern gaze. Yosuke, I am sure you understand my skepticism, but I accept your warning. It would be helpful if we could meet your leader and understand why he is using his power to help us. In good time, Fugaku. In good time I am sure that our organization will step into the light. If it sets your mind at ease, we are using our resources to help a great many people. You are not unique. We are doing it to prevent the destruction of the world. I know it sounds incredulous, but our leader has an amazing ability, and he is using it to put out fires before they ravage everything we hold dear. Shisui whispered, in a state of shock, could it really lead to the end of the world? Yosuke nodded sadly, a weariness filled his eyes and shocked the Uchihas. Yes, and not in some distant future. If we took no action, it would have ended with the 4th Great Shinobi War in less than 10 years. Jaws hit the table as the Uchihas processed the information. Are you telling me your leader can see the future? Fugaku asked, completely shocked by the implications. I will reveal no more than I have already, which has been quite generous. Tell me, Shisui, have you awakened your Mangekyo Sharingan yet? My leader wishes to know. Fugaku growled, nobody is supposed to know about that. This so-called organization had truly terrifying information-gathering abilities. Makoto calmed him down. Is it necessary for him to know? It is not a matter of if he will awaken it, but when. We believe he has already, and his particular eye will put him at risk. The Kodo Amatsukami is a terrifyingly powerful ability, and it will be coveted by many, especially an old cripple in your village. Yosuke replied in a disarming tone. Fugaku stood and pounded his fist on the table as his Mangekyo Sharingan flared to life. Enough games. How do you know about the Mangekyo and Shisui's abilities? How do you know any of this? And what does Danzo have to do with anything? His voice roared in the tiny privacy bubble and caused small shimmers on the translucent barrier. Yosuke sipped on his water before responding. I do not know how he gathers his information, I simply follow my instructions and believe in our mission. If this old man can help save the world, then he will do what he can. So, Shisui has activated his eyes, that is good. To answer your last question, that decrepit old fool is the reason your clan's prestige has fallen so far. He is your main adversary in the village, and if he ever got his hand on Shisui's eyes, then it would lead to the ruin of the leaf. Fugaku was incensed and Makoto had grabbed his hand firmly to drag him back down into his seat, but that didn't stop her from fixing a glare on Yosuke. How do we know you are not manipulating us? This is quite a lot to take in and it is getting hard to believe. Yosuke smiled warmly at Makoto, which caught her off guard. I will say this. When we expose Danzo, and we will, you will see something under that bandaged eye that will prove our good intentions for your clan. Shisui put 2 and 2 together to make 4 and he whispered, Sharingan. Fugaku's head snapped to Shisui and then to Makoto and then the realization hit him as well and his ki flared. Yosek put a calming hand in the air in an attempt to calm him down, which was moderately successful. This is a powerful privacy barrier, but if you continue then it will falter. Yes, he has a Sharingan eye. I request that you let us handle this through the proper channels. We have already rendered the cripple impotent, and we are being thorough enough to make sure the slippery bastard cannot escape. Yosuke's calm tone did nothing to calm Fugaku down. The clan head had his arms crossed in front of his chest, narrowed eyes and he was almost constantly growling lowly. Makoto was attempting to keep him calm and Shisui was glaring off into the distance. He had a wizened look on his face that didn't belong on a 19-year-old. Finally, Fugaku spoke. What assurances can you give that Danzo will be dealt with? Yosek seemed to think for a minute. Well, I will not tell you how, but in the next 2 years he will be dead. All we can do is mitigate the amount of damage he can cause in the meantime. For your part, keep an eye on him. The root has been trimmed but is by no means disbanded. Be warned, if you make a move prematurely then that will be the end of our partnership with the Uchiha. Not only that, but it will have negative impacts on the Uchiha's standing in the village. Fugaku frowned, he didn't like being on the receiving end of ultimatums. Very well, is there anything else you wish to address? In a puff of smoke, a sword was on the table. The sheath was in a dark red with the hilt of the katana wrapped in a blood-red cloth. Yosek pushed the sword to Fugaku before speaking. This is an example of our craftsmanship. We know the Uchiha have quite a few smiths, but we used ancient Uzumaki techniques to craft the blade and empowered it with seals. The blade will enhance the wielder's ability with the fire element and is made of a potent chakra-conductive metal. We give you this sword as a gesture of goodwill. That will be all from me, so I thank you for coming to meet me and wish you a bright future. Yosek stood up and shook Fugaku's hand, but before he could disappear, Fugaku spoke. I don't know why you are assisting us, but I am grateful. When the time comes, the Uchiha clan is in your debt. Do not hesitate to call on us if you should need. Fugaku said in a dignified manner. Yosek smiled and for a second it matched Naruto's gigawatt smile. That is good to hear. Enjoy your time in Wave and have a safe trip home. Yosek disappeared in a shunshin and the Uchihas collapsed back into their seats. Shisui had unsheathed the sword and was inspecting the blade. It was a masterpiece by Uchiha standards and after he was done inspecting it, he handed it to Fugaku. The clan head noticed the seals etched into the metal of the blade and at the base of the handle. The balance of the sword was just right, and a pleased grin worked its way onto his face. Dear, what are we going to do now? Makoto asked. We will enjoy a meal here and stay a night at the inn before we return to Konoha tomorrow. We will need to discuss what to share with the elders and the Hokage. Uncle, do you think we can trust him? Shisui asked. I don't know if we have a choice, Shisui. It isn't like we could find them if we wanted to. Konoha has been trying for years with no results. Fugaku answered, exhaustion from the meeting finally catching up with him. What of Danzo? Do you really think we should let an unknown party handle him? Makoto asked. For now, yes. We will watch, wait and collect our own evidence against the man. I am more concerned about the rogue Uchiha and the dissenters among the elders. Fugaku answered. The Uchihas enjoyed the rest of their day in the land of waves. As they made their way to the docks the following day, they walked past a construction site on the edge of the city. It looked like a big bridge was being built to link the island to Fire Country. That would be something worth reporting to the Hokage. That and the Senju symbol that seemed to decorate many stores and buildings in the small island town. Sunagakure, October 8, 10 years after the Kyuubi attack. Naruto, Tsunade, and Shizune were finishing their trip through the desert. Naruto appreciated the more frequent rest stops that were built and maintained by Suna. Over the last 5 years, Suna shinobi have been using Naruto's scanning seal to look for underground water in the desert before raising it to the surface. The rest stops weren't frequent, but they were each built on top of a small underground lake that Naruto used to turn the area into an oasis. By digging out a path for the water to flow and then using a hefty amount of earth chakra, Naruto was able to raise the underwater reservoirs and bring them to the surface. This resulted in dots of green breaking up the dreary Suna desert. It also made the trip much easier on traders and brought a bit of business into Suna, which garnered the attention of the Wind Daimyo. The Senju family was going to Suna to check in on their Project Oasis, the project that has been ongoing for nearly 5 years. The engineering effort was all aimed at bringing the massive reservoir hiding miles under Suna closer to the surface so that it could be used for Suna's benefit rather than sitting untapped. They were getting close to finishing the effort and Raza had reached out to Naruto for the final stage of the project, or at least that was the story Tsunade told him. The Senju family walked up to the main gates and saw that the Raikage and his children, along with Chiyo and Ebisu, were waiting for them. As Naruto got closer, Temari ran forward and tackled him in a hug, much to the amusement of the adults watching. "Oh, Ruto, it has been too long. I missed these hugs," Temari said as Naruto was pinned on the sand with Temari rubbing her face on his chest. Naruto blushed a bit but resigned himself to rubbing Temari's back and returning her hug. It was never in his plans to hijack this relationship, but considering that she was his best female friend, it just kind of happened. He was very close to Temari, and he was on brotherly terms with Gaara and Kankuro. Raza had mentioned an arranged marriage to Tsunade almost every time they met but was likewise rebuffed. Each time Tsunade said the same thing: if it happens naturally, it happens. I am going to let Naruto choose who he loves. "Heya, Temari, how have you been?" he responded as she continued glomming him. "I have been good. I will graduate from Suna's academy this year and become a kunoichi. My wind training is going really well too. We will have to spar later," she responded excitedly. Naruto finally broke the hug and the two kids stood up and dusted themselves off. Naruto shot a cocky grin at her. "If you want to lose that badly, then I am okay with it." She slugged him in the shoulder in response. "Don't make me unseal my fan. And you really should respect your elders, nobody likes a brat." "A brat you say? Well, this brat can still take you to the cleaners, fangirl." Naruto answered her challenge blow for blow. Temari threw her hands in the air. "Gah. Fine, do you always have to have the last word, Ruto?" Temari was using a strangely childish and pouty tone as she said this. Naruto waved her off and shrugged before walking over to the adults. The group made their way to the middle of the city, where there was nearly a square mile cleared away. This was going to be a man-made lake and it would provide a much-needed relief to the desert heat. As they approached the center of the cleared-out area, which was nearly 50 feet lower than the edge of the soon-to-be lake, Naruto noticed the 50-square-foot hole that descended into the depths of the desert. The head engineer walked over to the Senju group and shook hands with each member. He turned and bowed to the Raikage before speaking. "Lord Raikage, to what do we owe the pleasure of your visit?" The man spoke in a professional and submissive tone. "Relax, Toji, we are just here for a status update. Naruto is most interested in the progress we have made." Raza replied in a relaxed tone in attempt to calm the poor man down. "Oh, very good, very good. Well, Lord Senju, we have steadily raised the lake and the top of the water is only 100 feet down. This is going to be the main spout and we have reinforced the ground that has been cleared out so that it can sustain the weight of the reservoir." Naruto was impressed by that. That means they had completed the movement of the water and now all they had to do was pump it into the man-made lake. "That's awesome, Toji. You have done amazing work on this. When will the pumping begin?" "Well, the Raikage insisted we wait until after." The man was halted by Raza, who had his hand covering the man's mouth. He looked at Naruto apologetically. "Sorry, Naruto, we are trying to keep it low-key. Village secrets and all that." Naruto wasn't buying Raza's strange behavior or pathetic excuse. As he looked around at his group, he noticed that nobody was making eye contact with him. "Okay, spill it. What is going on?" Tsunade forced a smile on her face. "Nothing, kiddo. Why don't we go enjoy dinner at the Raikage mansion?" Naruto shrugged before speaking. "Okay, well, let me know if there is anything you need, Toji. I would be more than happy to help. I can't wait to jump in the lake." Kankuro started giggling perversely as he rubbed his hands together. Yes, Suna will finally have a swimming area, which means girls in swimsuits." A combination of Gaara's sand and Temari's fan left bruises on Kankuro's chest and head. Naruto shot a deadpan look at Gaara. "This is our brother, what has gotten into him?" Gaara nodded sagely. "I do not know, Naruto. Father explained that it is most likely the effects of puberty on a boy that is obsessed with women's products and dolls. They are puppets. And it isn't makeup, it's war paint. Kankuro whined while shooting a betrayed look at his father, which earned a round of laughter from the group. 2 days later, around noon, Temari roped Naruto into putting on a blindfold because she wanted to give him his birthday present. Naruto did his best to suppress his senses because he didn't want to cheat and spoil his surprise. Suddenly, Naruto felt the familiar feeling of a shunshin, and moments later Temari's excited voice filled his senses. "Okay, Ruto, you can take your blindfold off." Naruto removed his blindfold and saw he was on the edge of the no longer empty lake. The lake was filling up at a slow pace, and Naruto saw that the citizens of Suna were gathered around the edge of the lake and cheering as it filled up. He saw Tsunade and Shizune standing behind him with smiles on their faces, and Temari wrapped him up in another big hug. "It is all thanks to you. I convinced Daddy to wait until you made it back so that you could enjoy the moment with us." She whispered in his ear, clearly excited and grateful to see something that would bring life to the desert city. "Nah, Temari, this was a village-wide effort. I didn't do this, Suna did. I am glad I was here for this though." A peaceful smile rested on Naruto's face as he wrapped an arm around Temari's waist. To his consternation, she was only getting taller than him, despite his healthier eating. The group watched the lake fill up for 20 minutes before Temari took Naruto's hand and walked him back to the Cage mansion. They took their time and greeted the people of Suna, who watched the cute sight with smiles on their faces. The Senju name was held in almost as much honor as the Subaku name in Suna now, and everyone seemed to think the pair were destined to be together. Temari convinced Naruto to stop and buy her dango, which he naturally obliged. They munched on the delicious snack, and memories of the crazy snake lady flittered through his mind. He didn't know why he shivered, but he did. Naruto was sad that Anko died to Kabuto early on in the war, and he never got a chance to know the beautiful Kunoichi better. Yet another thing he would have to change in this life. After dango, Temari walked hand in hand with Naruto back to the Cage mansion, with Tsunade and Shizune trailing them with shit-eating grins on their faces. They finally made it back to the house, and Temari opened the door and insisted on Naruto going in. After casting a sidelong look her way, Naruto walked into the house. Inside, Tazuna, Kaisa, Tsunami, Inari, York, Kinji, Madame Shijimi, Kaori, their daughter, Jiraiya, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Raza, Yoshimaru, Gaara, Kankuro, and the Wind Daimyo Hoto and his wife, who was like 20 years younger than him. There were also a number of friends he made in Suna that this author doesn't feel like specifying. Surprise! They all yelled as Jiraiya summoned toads that blew party toys and threw confetti. "Fow! Thanks guys, you got me," Naruto said with a smile on his face. He turned and looked at Tsunade, who nodded to him with a satisfied, motherly smile on her face. "We wanted to do something special for you, brat. So, I worked with Raza to set this all up. The daimyos insisted on coming, so don't blame me for that." Kinji let out a hearty laugh. Kinji was a samurai general before he took over from his father and became daimyo. He was 48 years old, his body still radiated strength and power, along with an aura of dignity and supreme confidence. He started his reign a couple years before Minato took over as the Hokage. As new rulers, the two were very close and had many plans change Fire Country for the better, which obviously didn't work out. Since meeting Naruto, he has paid very close attention to the boy, especially since he was the next daimyo of Whirlpool by birthright. "Don't be like that, my boy. Of course, we would make it out to this special event," Kinji said in a boisterous voice. "Especially after how much you have helped us with those seals of yours." Madame Shijimi ran up and demonstrated why Tora always ran away as she glommed onto Naruto and shoved his head into her cleavage. Yes, there is no way I would miss this. You are practically family, after all." The loud woman then got quiet and whispered in his ear. "Plus, those bras you gave me were life-changing. I will be ordering hundreds more, feel free to charge whatever you like." A nearly suffocated Naruto's answer was muffled by the woman's bust, but his up-and-down motion told the woman that he got the message. She let him go and Naruto took in a big breath of air. Naruto heard snickering through the mind link, and Naruto sent a projection of Guy and Lee's eternal sunset, which rapidly stifled the sniggering fox. After Kinji and Shijimi, Hoto and his wife made their way over. Hoto was not like Kinji, he inherited the throne early from his father and had zero combat experience. Naruto honestly didn't like the man, but he had been working to make sure he sent missions to Suna when it was appropriate to do so. He remembered Gaara telling him that was one of the main reasons Suna had joined the invasion of Konoha. Naruto plastered a smile on his face and greeted the Wind Daimyo. Lord Hoto, I am humbled that you chose to join me for my birthday. You never told me about the beauty of your wife though. Naruto dipped his head in a show of respect. Oh ho, Lord Senju, always such the charmer. This is my wife Kiri and her beauty is second to none in the land of wind. The chubby man boasted. Naruto turned to Kiri, it is a pleasure to meet you, Lady Kiri. I am sure you are just as beautiful inside as you are out. The woman let a melodious chuckle escape her lips from behind the sleeve of her kimono. I could say the same to you, young Senju. I am truly grateful for all you have done to help our country. I can barely recognize this village anymore. Hoto cut in, yes, Suna is in an age of prosperity. Look, my boy, you simply must come and visit me and my family at our estate in the Wind Capital. I would love to hook you up with my niece. Naruto tried to maintain his smile as he replied. You honor me by your invitation, Lord Hoto. I will see if mother would allow me a break from my training. It is nearly time for me to return to Konoha and she has ramped up my training quite a bit. Oh ho, very good. I will be sure to speak with Lady Tsunade. Enjoy the rest of your party, my boy. Hoto replied dismissively. Naruto relaxed and let out a sigh as the stodgy politician finally left him alone. He caught the apologetic smile of Kiri as she walked away. Such a shame a lady like her had to settle with a guy like that. Kankuro clapped Naruto on the back and Gaara put a friendly hand on his shoulder. I always hate dealing with that fat bastard. At least he has gotten better since you came to Suna. Kankuro whispered in his ear. Indeed, he is nearly enough for me to give in to Shukaku's wishes to paint my sand with his blood. Gaara added in a dry monotone, which earned a weary look from Kankuro and a laugh from Naruto. He ain't worth it, Gaara. You have too much to lose. Let him be and we will work around him. Naruto whispered over his shoulder to Gaara. As he was talking to the Subaku brothers, Naruto locked eyes with the Hokage and knew that he should probably get this over with. He walked over to Tsunade after saying goodbye to Gaara and Kankuro before he gestured with his head toward Hiruzen and Jiraiya. She simply nodded in a resigned fashion and put a comforting hand on his shoulder as they walked over to the two Konoha shinobi. Let's take this to a more private room. And you two will be quick with it, today is about my grandson, it isn't about you two. Tsunade said in a hushed tone saturated with a warning neither of the two men could ignore. After the two agreed, they walked out of the living room and into the guest room upstairs. Naruto weaved through hand signs and placed his hand on the door after everyone entered, which surprised Jiraiya. Sensei told me you were good with Fuinjutsu, but it is still surprising to see that. Jiraiya said, shaking his head. Naruto deadpanned at him, I have been able to do that since I was 5. So, grandfather, what did you want to say? Jiraiya froze while Tsunade slapped her hand to her face. As Jiraiya remained in a gobsmacked state, Naruto turned to Hiruzen. So, old man, I saw that the accounts were reimbursed. Thanks for that. Hiruzen suppressed the grumbling he wanted to do. He had to fight tooth and nail against the stingy council to get that money back. Kinji's insistence had played a key role in helping Hiruzen succeed. You are welcome, Naruto. I do hope we can move forward from here. Sure, new chapter and all that. Just make sure the new chapter isn't a repeat of the past. Old man Kinji told me you got rid of the civilian council, or at least the worst parts of it. Naruto replied in a neutral tone. Hiruzen cracked a smile. Yes, that was one positive to come from all of this. The civilian council was reduced in size and is solely an advisory body. Multiple council members were arrested for theft, abuse of power and other such crimes. Will you be coming back to Konoha after this? No, I will continue my training and return for the final semester. Gaara will be one of the exchange students for that semester and I will be there to help him through it. Naruto's tone remained constantly neutral, as did his facial expressions. Jiraiya finally snapped out of it and his wide eyes stared at Tsunade, who had her arms crossed under her bust and looked at him neutrally. Is he? Tsunade sighed, yes, Jiraiya. He is not only your godson, but he is also your grandson. I told sensei not to tell you because it is a family matter. Hiruzen winced at the implication that he wasn't family. Minato was our lost son, and we never knew. While we are on the topic of lineage, I can tell you that Uncle Tobirama was your father. I don't know about your mom. Jiraiya fainted at the information overload, and everyone just let him process the information on his own. Tsunade turned her gaze to Hiruzen, and tension built in the room. Hiruzen was the first to crack. I apologize to both of you for failing to protect Naruto. I justified it in my mind that I couldn't show favoritism and that the village came before one person. I was wrong and I apologize for my failures. Hiruzen bowed his head to the two senjus. Naruto cut off Tsunade's growl by taking the lead. Relax, old man. My anger with you has faded. It is right there, under the surface, but it will continue to fade in time. I am sure you have heard what we have been up to, thanks for keeping the council off our butts. I wouldn't want Mama to become a missing nin because she killed whoever they sent after us. Hiruzen's smile grew as he listened to Naruto. Yes, well, if you didn't secure a better treaty between Suna and Konoha, they would have raised a stink. It is embarrassing for the strongest of the Great Five to fall behind Suna in some ways. Although, I must admit that I enjoyed the changes that were made. The rest stops were a massive relief compared to the old journey through the desert. Naruto shrugged and rolled his eyes before replying. Look, old man, staying mad at you is tiring and I honestly have better things to do with my life. I assure you that I am loyal to Konoha, but that doesn't mean I am not going to help whoever I can. The changes to Suna were all me and Mama, at least the seals. The flourishing of Wave, yeah, that was us. If you keep those old farts off my back, I promise I will bring the same to Konoha. I just needed to get out of there. Jiraiya had regained consciousness at some point and was listening intently to Naruto. Tell me, brat, what was so bad about Konoha? Naruto's eyes dimmed and he shot a lifeless look at Jiraiya. Did you know my food in the orphanage, the scraps that I got, often had rat poisoning in it? Did you know that while other kids got to play, I was made to clean? Did Hiruzen tell you that I slept and lived in a broom closet? What about the kids blaming everything that went wrong on me, which the old bat would use as justification to further starve me or beat me? To top it all off, on my 4th birthday I was thrown out and nearly 100 villagers gathered together to beat me half to death. If my dad's failsafe didn't activate, I could have died. Now, after that, do you believe the beatings would have ended there? Please share your wisdom with me, O great Toad Sannin. Jiraiya and Hiruzen's faces drooped, and their eyes fell to the floor in shame. Their guilt was worse than their anger at the villagers because either of them could have prevented that from happening. He should have been the prince of Konoha and instead he was villainized for something he never did. Tsunade was crying because she knew in Naruto's previous life the mistreatment had continued for most of his life. Not to mention the betrayal of the village he saved during the 4th war. Look, if I am being honest here, I will tell you that I am broken. Yes, Mama, I am going to tell them. Naruto paused here and took a deep breath. To compensate for my treatment, my mind fractured, and I developed multiple personality disorder. If you ever doubted if I was exaggerating, well, there you go. Naruto's tone was dead, completely devoid of the mirth that should have been present in a child. Jiraiya fell to his knees and Hiruzen's head hit his chest as the two fully grown men cried out of guilt and frustration. I am so, sorry. Jiraiya prostrated himself and slammed his head against the ground. Life suddenly returned to Naruto as he shook off the haunting memories of the past, but really Hikari was inside his mind trying to push her influence into Naruto to bring back his innocent spark. He went to Jiraiya and hugged him, making the old toad break down even more. Tsunade was losing the fight against her own tears at the scene and Hiruzen was trying to recompose himself. It took 5 minutes for the regroup to regain their composure, and it was Jiraiya that spoke first. Well, it sounds like I have a lot of making up to do. What do you say I train you and I can even let you sign the toad summoning contract as a birthday present? Naruto had given the toads some thought, but he had a feeling that they weren't the way to go this time around, especially after their betrayal last time around. His visit to Uzu's hidden archives had a couple summoning contracts, but they were mainly water-related and they didn't feel right either. For some reason, he got a feeling that Kami had something planned for him and he was going to wait to see what that was. Naruto sighed before he formed the Rasengan in his right hand and spoke to the gobsmacked pair of Konoha shinobi. I train myself, for the most part. Mama helps me out for a couple hours every few days and provides tests, but I really don't need your training. As for the toads, I have a gut instinct telling me not to sign that contract and I am inclined to listen to it. Naruto spoke firmly, to ensure he would get through his grandfather's thick skull. He declined the training because Jiraiya's style of training was actually infuriating when Naruto reflected on it. Jiraiya was sputtering, so Hiruzen spoke for his stunned student. Naruto, I don't doubt you are strong, but what would possess you to deny training from a Sannin? And why would you decline one of the great three summons? Instead of answering Hiruzen, Naruto turned to Tsunade. Should I show them? Tsunade shrugged, they are going to find out sooner or later. I guess it depends on if you trust them to keep your secret. Naruto sighed and fixed his gaze on the two men. Well, can I trust you to keep a secret, even if you feel like it would be your obligation to report it to the council? Jiraiya instantly nodded, but Hiruzen hesitated. Finally, Hiruzen nodded and said, if it doesn't endanger the village. This instantly made Naruto think, Kami, how did I know the old monkey was going to say that? Naruto laughed at the old monkey. Damn, old man, you are so predictable. Village this and village that. Whatever. Naruto turned toward a table in the room and put his hand on the wood, making it grow and form into a chair that he sat down on. As the two fully grown idiots pointed and sputtered, Naruto pulled $10 out of his wallet and handed it to Tsunade. Damn, I was sure one of them would have fainted. Tsunade gleefully plucked the bill out of his hand and put it in her cleavage before raising her fist into the air and shouting, finally. I have won a bet against the brat. I finally did it. This broke the two old goats out of their sputtering and made Naruto laugh heartily. Yeah, you did it mama. Congrats. Jiraiya scooped Naruto into a big hug and Hiruzen sighed. Of course you would have the Mokuten. My grandson is awesome. My grandson is going to have a harem for sure. Jiraiya was cheering wholeheartedly, drawing sweat drops from Naruto and Hiruzen while Tsunade made the room temperature drop below freezing. Jiraiya craned his neck mechanically toward Tsunade, who was stalking towards him. He attempted to hide behind Naruto, but the boy wriggled out of his embrace and left him high and dry. Tsunade planted Jiraiya into the wall of the guest room, leaving spiderweb cracks in the room that shook the house, causing the guests downstairs to pause what they were doing and look upstairs. Okay, now that Mama has gotten a shot in on the old perv, can we get back to the party? We have been up here long enough. We said what needed to be said and the rest will work itself out in time. Tsunade dusted off her knuckles. Ruto is right. I am done with this, and I need some sake. Naruto was mad that he couldn't drink in front of others because he was feeling the exact same thing. Luckily for him, Tsunade knew this, and she would continually spike his drinks for him throughout the night. Other than the long overdue talk, it was a great birthday party. Naruto remembered the birthday parties he had in this very house during the resistance, but there was something special about it when the fate of the world wasn't looming overhead. He spent most of the night dodging glomming attempts from Kaori, a friendly reminder that she is the fire daimyo's daughter, and Temari. He enjoyed hanging out with Gaara and laughing at Konkuro's antics. He wished he still had the childhood innocence to enjoy the games the Suna kids were playing, but he didn't feel like forcing himself on his birthday. That was when a wood clone formed out of his back and winked at him, which caused Gaara to raise an eyebrow. Naruto shrugged it off before making 3 more after issuing mental orders that they were to retain his form. After Kurama, Yosek and Hikari escaped their confinement, the party became livelier as the guests were intrigued to see 5 blonde birthday boys running around. They barely noticed the small differences in speech patterns and mannerisms, but Naruto enjoyed the celebration a lot more after that. The only downside was that he had to pull the wood clone that Rias was inhabiting aside and tell her not to try anything with any of the ladies present. It was weird for Naruto to see himself giving himself puppy dog eyes, but he remained firm, especially after seeing how she hit it off with Kiri. Kurama ran through the backyard of the Subaku estate like a true child. He still wasn't used to getting out of the seal and it was so invigorating for him to be out in the real world. Naruto laughed as kids attempted to follow Kurama as he dashed through the trees Naruto had grown for his friends. He was sitting on the patio and watching the party when Kinji came and sat next to him. You know, Ruto, when I first met you, I could tell that you were bound by a great destiny. It was the way you walked and carried yourself, like the weight of the world was on your back but you were already used to it. Tell me, how can I help you help Fire Country? Wow, straight to the hard stuff, Lord Kinji. Naruto answered sarcastically. Kinji let out a hearty laugh and slapped Naruto on the knee. Look bud, I knew your father very well and we had great plans for Konoha and Fire Country. After seeing what you have done for Suna, yes, I know it was you, I have zero doubts that I should trust you. If you ever assume your role as Whirlpool's daimyo, you will understand that talk like this happens at these kind of events. Naruto chuckled before responding. Look, Lord Kinji. Kinji held up a hand and Naruto heeded his request for silence. Please, buddy, when it is the two of us just call me Uncle Kinji or something less formal. I have people blowing smoke up my ass every day of the year, I don't need it from you. Fine, Uncle Kin, I will do that. If you ask me, the best thing that could happen to Fire Country as a whole would be the death of Danzo. I know that may sound morbid and extreme, but you asked. I don't have proof of his crimes because he is a slimy bastard, but I am sure someone of your station could find something. Kinji dropped his smile and went into his ruler mode. Naruto, I have worked with Danzo before. I admit the man's methods are extreme, but I am not aware that he has done anything deserving execution. Naruto reviewed what he remembered from his previous life. The Uchiha massacre hadn't happened yet, but Naruto was sure he had a Sharingan. He clearly remembered his involvement in the Land of Rain. He knew for certain that he had abducted orphans and that he had done something to the Land of Woods. He was sure that he had done much, much more, but that should be a start. Naruto took out a tag and drew a truth seal on it and explained it to Kinji before he slapped it on his chest. Uncle Kin, I have no proof and I can't tell you how I know this as I am bound by a blood contract. I will start with what I know. First, Danzo is the one who revealed that I was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki against Hokage's orders. He did so to isolate me in an attempt to eventually gain control of my power. Naruto paused to let the seal glow blue to show he was telling the truth. Second, he was and still is working with Orochimaru. Third, according to documents provided to my grandmother, Root was involved with Gato for the purpose of human trafficking. Yes, Root is still active, and they are devoted to Danzo, not the village. Another blue glow from the seal on Naruto's chest. Third, he was meddling in the Land of Wood and the Land of Rain, without orders from the Hokage. If that isn't enough, Danzo takes children out of the orphanages for his Root program when he kills their emotions, places loyalty and silencing seals on them, and the final test for Root operatives is a battle to the death between kids that grew up training together. If that isn't enough, I don't know how to convince you. After Naruto was finished speaking, the seal glowed blue. Throughout Naruto's explanation, Kinji's face warped into a visage of divine rage. He was growling and clenching his fists by the end, and he asked one question. Does Hiruzen know about this? Naruto shrugged. Dunno, I think that he thinks Root is no longer active. I am sure he knows about some of it though. If you confront him, do not tell him where you got the information, please. I just reconciled with the old monkey. Kinji was still struggling to suppress his rage, but he did so for Naruto's sake. Very well, I will have my agents look into him. If we find anything substantial, I will order his death. Uncle Kin, if you take your shot, take every precaution to make sure you don't miss. He is as slippery as Orochimaru, and if he is cornered, he will lash out, station be damned. Naruto added cautiously, which caused Kinji to take a deep breath and think rationally. My boy, if you ever feel like sharing how you know all this information, know that you have an ally in me. When the day comes that you choose to trust me fully, I would be truly happy on such a day. Kinji said warmly, despite his lingering rage. Uncle Kin, I will tell you that I got a lot of that knowledge from my father when the backup seal activated when I was 4. You want me to share a secret with you though? Kinji nodded eagerly. Follow me. Tsunade watched Naruto and Kinji with a smile on her face as she talked with Raza and Madame Shijimi. It reminded her of the time she spent with Minato and Kinji when they were excited to change the world for the better. She offered a prayer of gratitude to Kami when she saw her son securing a truly powerful ally in his fight to make this world a better place. Naruto and Kinji walked far enough into the trees of the Subaku training ground when Naruto stopped and turned to face Kinji. Say, uncle, what is your favorite fruit? Kinji thought for a moment before replying. I have always been partial to oranges. Naruto closed his eyes and placed his hands on the ground. Kinji watched with awe as he witnessed proof that the long-lost bloodline of Konoha had finally resurfaced. And it had resurfaced in this boy in front of him. That is amazing. The normally composed daimyo was standing there, dazed like a love-struck schoolgirl and gaping at the fully grown fruit tree. Naruto plucked an orange and tossed it to Kinji, the sudden movement breaking him from his spell, and the daimyo fumbled clumsily with the fruit as he attempted to catch it. The display made Naruto laugh, but his laughter ceased with Kinji's look hardened. Naruto Senju, you need to be more careful with this. You are lucky I waved off my ninja guardians. You need to be careful with who knows this until you are strong enough to defend yourself. Naruto waved him off. I know, Uncle Kin. I sensed that your guardians didn't follow us in. If you couldn't tell, the Sabakas know and have known since I was 5. Raza is bound by an Uzumaki blood contract to keep it a secret. I have been using my Mokuden to help Wave and Suna and keeping it low-key. The people that I have helped have proved to be extremely loyal, and my secret is still safe, as far as I am aware. Kinji shook his head. You never cease to amaze, my boy. Your secret is safe with me, who else knows? I told Hiruzen and Jiraiya when we were upstairs. Finally, Uncle Kin, I need you to put this seal on your chest. Without hesitation, Kinji took the seal and placed it on his chest under his robes. Kinji of the Land of Fire, will you keep any secrets I share with you here today? Will you hold and protect my trust? Will you promise to guide me and keep me on the path of righteousness in order to make this world a better place? Kinji was taken aback by the boy's serious tone, but it was the look in the boy's eyes that surprised him the most. It was a harder and firmer look than his father's, and it should never be on the face of such a small child. He schooled his features to match the boy's seriousness and nodded his head firmly. I, Kinji, daimyo of the Land of Fire, offer you my word that I will protect any secret you share with me. I will use my experience and resources to assist you in your goal, guide you down the right path and work alongside you to make this world a better place. Naruto smiled, not the gigawatt smile with an air of dignity, but a regal smile. He nodded to the experienced man before locking eyes with the man. Tsunade and I are the heads of the neighborhood watch. I was the one that stopped the Hyuga incident, and we have announced ourselves to the other nations. Of all the secrets that Naruto could have shared with him, he wasn't expecting that one. He was, of course, aware of the neighborhood watch, and his spies had been looking for information on the organization. It took Kinji nearly 30 seconds to gasp out, "Holy Kami, bud. That was unexpected. Are you mad?" Naruto asked cautiously. No, I can't say I am exactly mad. It was infuriating trying to locate and identify the organization, but I am not mad at you, my boy. You haven't done anything that was overtly out of line. Does you sharing this information with me mean that you wish to have me join your efforts? Naruto shrugged and replied flippantly, if you want to. It is not my intention to have you take an active role, but your position grants you a lot of intelligence. If you shared said intelligence with me, I would be able to help you with problems that couldn't be handled through standard channels. If something is serious enough, I would also run it by you first. I am working to create a method of long-range, instant communication, but it is slow going for now. The Uzumaki had a version of it, but it required a whole building and 2 chakra conduits. Not a realistic option if I wish to lay low. Kinji chuckled before calming himself and responding. Naruto, you are going to change this world, and I look forward to seeing it. Do this old man a favor and make sure you stay true to yourself. Don't give in to the darkness like so many have before you. Sure thing, Lord Daimyo. I give you my word, and I never go back on my word. It is kinda my ninja way. Naruto responded semi-formally. The two rejoined the party, and Naruto was embarrassed to see that his alter egos were still the life of the party. He could tell the one Kurama was inhabiting because the whisker marks were slightly more pronounced and the pupils were slitted. Luckily nobody had noticed that small discrepancy. Hikari was running along with the children and acting like most people thought a 10-year-old should. She brought smiles and light wherever she went, which was something Naruto honestly appreciated about her and wished he could revert to that sometimes. The time for gifts came, and evidently more people thought that he was approaching ninja age by the nature of the gifts he received. Jiraiya gave him a hastily written scroll detailing his two unique jutsu, Needle Jizo, and hardened hair manipulation. Seems like he defaulted to those two since Naruto already knew the Rasengan and declined the Toad summons. Jiraiya was broken up about that, but he didn't plan to let the issue go. He planned on dropping in on Tsunade and Naruto from time to time before he returned to Konoha. Tsunade and Shizune collaborated to get Naruto a whole new combat outfit and a haori that he could wear over his civilian clothes. The outfit was a weighted, black tank top that was reinforced with seals and would replace the need for mesh wire. In addition to the tank top, they gave Naruto a black combat jacket with orange lining that had multiple pockets in the front of the vest, chakra-conductive threads and an auto-sizing seal on it. On the back of the jacket, there was a hood that could be used for stealth ops since sun-kissed blonde hair wasn't exactly stealthy. The outfit came with chakra-conductive bracers and shin guards as well as short-length black boots with hardened tips. Naruto gave both women a massive hug and a gigawatt smile. The Subaku family gave him a Suna armband that designated him as an honorary citizen of Suna. This would grant him visiting rights to Suna, even when he became a Konoha shinobi. Hiruzen suppressed a scowl when he saw this, but he knew he had nothing that could prevent it from happening. That right required the review of both lands' daimyos, which meant Kinji and Hodo has already approved it. Naruto winked at Temari and promised to use it to surprise her, which made the sandy blonde girl blush furiously. Hiruzen got Naruto a set of premium kunai and shuriken. He didn't know the boy that well and felt it was safer to keep it simple. Kinji and Madame Shijimi gave Naruto documentation announcing him as the heir to the land of whirlpools and showed him proof that they were the acting custodians of the land until his 18th birthday. Hodo gave Naruto a set of high-quality handheld battle fans called sensu. Naruto appreciated the sentiment since the people of Suna knew that he was a wind user, but he honestly planned on giving them to Temari. The rest of the gifts weren't noteworthy, but Naruto appreciated the fact that he actually had people he could call friends in Suna. After the big birthday party ended and everyone left, Naruto used the rest of his time in Suna to bond with Temari during the day when Gaara and Kankuro were in the academy. He was leagues ahead of her in wind manipulation, but that didn't discourage the blonde Kunoichi. She loved Naruto's company, and he was a great and patient teacher with her. She was never one to think much of boys, and most guys feared her father and brothers, but that wasn't the only reason she never entertained the numerous guys that worked up the courage to ask her out. In her heart of hearts, she was completely smitten by the sun-kissed blonde boy that had made such a difference in her family's life. Naruto noticed as he watched Temari practice wind manipulation by making the desert sands dance around her that he wasn't having as many flashbacks as he used to have in Suna. The haunting memories were being overpowered by the positive, newer memories. He also realized that he felt empty when Kurama, Yosek, Hikari and Rias were out of the seal for extended periods of time. He had been using wood clones for them to inhabit and had been trying to respect their independence. He knew that granting them their freedom was worth putting up with the empty feeling, but it still pained his heart a little bit. Naruto was broken out of his musings by a slug to the shoulder from a panting and sweaty Temari. "I am done for the day, Ruto. If I push any more, I will collapse from chakra exhaustion, and I don't want to waste the rest of my time with you," she said while fluttering her eyelashes at him. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. "Oh, okay Mari, whatever you want. You don't have any genin duties." Naruto knew that she wasn't assigned to a team, and she was on the reserve roster so that she could join a team with her brothers when they finally graduated, but she still had duties from time to time. "No, you know Daddy always clears my schedule when you are in town." The tomboyish blonde suddenly looked sheepish and put one hand over the other in front of her stomach before she shot a shy look at Naruto. You know, Ruto, I was thinking that maybe we could go for a swim in the lake, TT together." Naruto smiled and blushed a bit as he reached over and raised Temari's chin to make eye contact. "You don't need to be nervous with me, Mari. I would love to go swimming with you. I almost forgot that they opened up the lake to the public." Temari answered the intimate gesture with a cherry red blush that rivaled what Naruto remembered of Hinata. She was only able to nod, too scared that her words would betray her feelings to the young boy. They went back to the mansion and grabbed their swimsuits before they made their way to the new lake. As they walked, Naruto noticed the smiles and knowing glances from the adults. The two of them were a common topic in Suna's rumor mill, and most of the public wanted the two children to end up together. It might be too early for such things, but when the gossip is hot enough, people tend to set aside social norms. They made it to the lake and Naruto was left breathless as Temari took off her shirt to reveal a black, two-piece swimsuit. It was nothing crazy, but it was enough to make Naruto gulp and kickstart his more mature urges. He had given up on thinking about the implications of real age difference or other reincarnation-related issues a while back. He decided to just enjoy whatever presented itself when it came to his female relationships. He had 3 separate girlfriends in his previous life, and he had residual feelings for them that were unresolved. Hinata was the first, but that ended before she died because they both realized they were better as friends than lovers. That didn't stop the formation of a friends with benefits relationship, since both of them needed the escape from the atrocities of the war. Naruto could never forget the soft scent of lavender, the beautiful eyes with the lavender tint, the soft caresses or the submissive freakiness in the bedroom. Hinata was his first love, and embers would always remain when it came to her, regardless of how much time passed. Those benefits ended when Naruto started dating Temari in between the crazy mission load of the resistance. That lasted until Temari died at the hands of a Kumo Bolt team. Naruto always regretted not going with her on that mission, and there were many unresolved feelings that were being reforged into intimacy in this life. The love of the past was willingly converting itself into hope for the future, but it wouldn't be easy due to being from separate villages. The final woman to own a piece Naruto's heart was Ino. She was his therapist for the last year and a half of the war after Temari's death. She was a strong, independent and loyal to a fault. She single-handedly brought Naruto back from the edge of the abyss when he was thinking about turning himself over to spare his surviving friends. He was so broken before she saved him, and he smiled at the memory of their first kiss in the middle of a counseling session that she forced him into. Don't worry, the memory will be shared at a more appropriate time. The lingering feelings for the flowery blonde were one of the main reasons that Naruto told Tsunade not to accept any marriage contracts with Temari. He knew he needed to spend time with Ino and make a decision before he could commit to a girl. Shaking off memories of the past and thoughts about feeling that wouldn't be resolved anytime soon, Naruto smiled at Temari and gave her a compliment. "That really suits you, Mari. You look beautiful in that swimsuit. Simple, sweet and to the point." Temari blushed furiously and avoided eye contact for a bit. She used the time to take in the sculpted and slim figure of Naruto. His muscles were slim and streamlined, like a young Olympic runner, except more boyish. She couldn't stop thinking about how he would look when he grew up, and she was so lost in her thoughts that she started drooling. Naruto's knowing laugh brought her back to reality and deepened her blush. SS Shutup, BB Baka. Temari's embarrassed stutter made Naruto laugh more. "Oh, is my desert lily embarrassed that I caught her checking me out?" Naruto was able to stop his laughter long enough to tease her more. Temari, having enough of the teasing, grabbed the much younger boy and threw him into the water. Naruto surfaced with his shit-eating grin still plastered on his face before he splashed water onto the princess of Suna. This prompted the young kunoichi to jump into the water and begin a mixture of roughhousing and water fighting. Unfortunately for Temari, Naruto now had a water affinity, which meant that he was far more suited to a water fight than Temari. After repeatedly drenching the beautiful girl and dodging her attempted counter-attacks, Naruto finally wrapped her up from behind and dunked her under the cool water with him. Temari was surprised by the mutual dunking, but she turned around and emerald locked with Azure under the clear water. In a moment of youthful inhibition, Temari leaned forward and placed a quick kiss on Naruto's lips before she broke out of his stunned hold and floated to the surface. Naruto sat underwater, completely stunned, unable to break himself out of his flustered state. He remained hovering underwater and watching air bubbles escape toward the surface. He had no inclination to follow them, seemingly content to remain underwater among the dulled and peaceful sounds, or at least he was until Temari's hands linked under his arms and dragged him to the surface. As Naruto caught his breath, he failed to notice the severe blush on Temari's cheeks or the uncertainty in her eyes. Finally, he was able to notice her nervous state and was able to break himself out of it and act like his usual confident self. He swam over to her and pulled her into a hug before whispering in her ear. "Thanks for that, Mari. I like you a lot, but I am only 10. Before you think that I don't share your feelings, I do. You are my best friend, and I don't want to lose that because we rushed into something we weren't ready for. If you want to keep kissing me, I won't stop you though. Naruto finished this with a quick kiss to her cheek. Temari's brain was overheating, as her blush clearly indicated. She knew he probably wasn't ready for anything yet because he was still too young. That didn't mean she wasn't old enough, especially as the effects of puberty were kicking in for the beautiful blonde. I know we are young, Ruto. I just wanted to let you know that you are the only one for me. When you are old enough, I will be waiting for you. She whispered back into his ear and placed another tender kiss on his cheek. Little did the two know that Rias and Kurama were hanging out at the lake as well and had seen the whole thing. Kurama couldn't suppress the chuckle and Rias was smiling like some proud older sister. As the older sister, she would have to talk to Naruto and guide him through this. This was her terrain after all, and Naruto would need her help sorting his feelings out. Kurama watched on fondly, since he was synced with Naruto for the whole war, he knew about the feelings he had for each of his girls. In truth, Kurama realized that Naruto's humanity had rubbed off on him and he shared most of those feelings with his previous human mates. If only the bastard Uchiha didn't drag the whole world into war, then his partner could have found happiness with any of the three. Naruto and Temari spent the majority of their free time at the lake. The lack of clothing and shelter of the water letting the two youths grow closer and develop their feelings. Every touch would be cherished, every laugh a deterrent to the nightmares of the past, every kiss a special moment of light in the darkness of the shinobi world. The citizens and shinobi of Suna saw the increased level of intimacy, which led to a betting pool being opened for the date that the marriage would be announced. It would be open for quite a while and it would grow to a substantial sum, but if you asked anybody from Suna, it was a matter of if, not when. At nights, Naruto and the Subaku siblings were inseparable. Whether they were tearing through the town or just hanging out at the mansion, Naruto was accepted as the fourth Subaku sibling. Sadly, 2 weeks passed in a flash, and it was time to return to Wave to resume his training and preparations to return to Konoha. Naruto never got used to the teary goodbye kisses with Temari or the manly hugs with Gaara and Kankuro. This life was truly better with each of them in it, but this happiness motivated him to fight. He would fight to sustain this happiness, not only for himself, but for everyone he loved. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and I'll catch you in the next part.